Chapter 53. Seeing that this Uchiha Shinichi wants to fight in front of his house, Hyojin had no choice but to agree to his challenge. After coming to a remote grove, Hyojin glanced around. His eyes stopped on a big tree in the distance for a moment, then said to Uchiha Shinichi, "Okay, let's fight here." Uchiha Shinichi nodded with a proud look on his face. "Let me make it clear to you first. I'm different from Jishuei. I will fight for real." "Oh." Uchiha Shinichi's eyes twitched. "Hey, are you listening carefully? I said I will fight for real. If you don't pay attention, you will die." Hyojin said helplessly, "I really have something to do. Please hurry up." "Damn it." Uchiha Shinichi opened his Sharingan and stared at Hyojin fiercely. "Idiot who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Today, I will let you see the true strength of Uchiha." After saying that, Uchiha Shinichi quickly printed hand seals and shouted, "Fire release! Great fireball jutsu!" Hyojin's figure flashed, avoiding Uchiha Shinichi's great fireball jutsu. At this time, under the cover of the fire release ninjutsu, Uchiha Shinichi flashed in front of Hyojin using the body flicker jutsu. The three tomo in his Sharingan rotated rapidly. In an instant, the two looked at each other. Looking at Uchiha Shinichi's Sharingan, Hyojin was startled at first. Then his whole person seemed to have lost his soul, slowly lowered his head, and stood in the same place. Uchiha Shinichi curled his lips. "What the hell? So weak. How can Jishuei lose to such a waste?" He muttered as he approached Hyojin. In the vision of his Sharingan, the chakra in Hyojin's body is extremely chaotic, completely falling into a state of Jinjutsu. So he was almost unguarded, thinking of putting the kunai on Hyojin's throat first, and then dispelling the Jinjutsu for Hyojin, so that he can humiliate Hyojin. But just as Uchiha and Shinichi raised their right arms, Hyojin suddenly lowered his body and struck out with both palms. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst a series of slaps, Uchiha Shinichi fell to the ground in shock and fainted. Clapping his hands, Hyojin said lightly, "All right, come out." Swish! A figure fell in front of Hyojin. This figure is no one else. This is Uchiha Jishuei. Jishuei first glanced at Uchiha Shinichi, who was knocked out, then bowed to Hyojin and said with a smile, "Senior, you have worked hard." In fact, Hyojin had long discovered Jishuei secretly behind Uchiha Shinichi, and seeing that Jishuei did not inform him in advance, he guessed that Uchiha Shinichi should not be powerful. Otherwise, with his friendship with Jishuei, he would definitely inform him in advance. Hyojin asked, "This kind of trouble won't happen every day in the future, will it?" Shursui shook his head and said in a serious tone, "Of course not. Shinichi is also a Tokubetsu Jonin, and he lost so miserably this time. When he goes back, those restless guys in the clan will definitely discuss countermeasures, and I guess it will be at least a few days before there will be another challenge." Hyojin was really helpless this time. "Isn't it endless?" Jishuei hurriedly promised. "Don't worry, the clan will definitely not send elite Jonin, at most the level of ordinary Jonin." Hyojin's face darkened. "According to what you said, I will have to fight half of Uchiha? At that time, I won't get the strange title of the nemesis of the Uchiha, right?" "Hee, it's been hard on you. It's been hard on you." Jishuei smiled twice and immediately carried the unconscious Uchiha Shinichi and ran away in a panic. Hyojin hurriedly shouted, "Hey, don't run so fast. Next time you give me some information in advance." The reason why he could defeat Uchiha Shinichi so easily this time was mainly because Uchiha Shinichi was too arrogant. Hyojin only used the Tenseigan to disrupt the flow of chakra in his body and easily deceived Uchiha Shinichi, who was full of confidence in his Jinjutsu. If it was a more cautious Uchiha, Hyojin may not be able to win so easily. "Senpai, don't worry." Jishuei's voice floated from a distance. He was counting on Hyojin to suppress the increasingly domineering Uchiha people, so he naturally took the initiative to provide help to Hyojin. After dealing with Uchiha Shinichi, Hyojin's plan remained unchanged and went straight to the Forest of Death. With yesterday's experience, he was even more adept at collecting poisons today. In less than 2 hours, he had collected twice as many poison sacs and glands as he had yesterday. It could be said that he had exceeded his mission. Just as he was about to go home to concoct the compound poison, there was a sudden rustling sound in the forest. Hyojin stopped and looked in the direction of the sound. He saw a wave of grass swaying in the thick grass, and then the mixed-hair small wild boar he met yesterday came out of the grass and looked at him foolishly. "Ah, you're still alive." Seeing the small wild boar, Hyojin was a little surprised. According to common sense, the poison sacs in the snake carcass yesterday should be enough to poison this small wild boar 10 times over. As long as the small wild boar ate the snake carcass, it would definitely die. Did it not eat the snake carcass, or did it remove the poison sacs inside? As soon as this thought came up, Hyojin frowned because he suddenly realized that the small wild boar, which did not have chakra flowing in its body yesterday, had a faint trace of chakra in its body today. This change surprised Hyojin even more. It was also possible for wild animals to learn to use chakra by chance, but the probability was very low. Ordinary people would rarely encounter it. Moreover, wild animals that could learn to use chakra by chance were usually smart, strong, and old. Hyojin had never heard of a wild animal that could learn to use chakra at a young age, like the small wild boar. The small wild boar scurried to Hyojin and cried, "Julio, you want to eat? I don't have anything on me that you can eat." Halfway through, Hyojin suddenly thought for a moment, then took out a thumb-sized poison sac from his waist pouch and threw it on the ground. "Do you want to eat this?" Wild animals generally had the talent to avoid harm, so Hyojin wanted to try and see if this unusual small wild boar in front of him would eat the poison sac. After all, the smell of the poison sac was pungent. Ordinary animals would avoid it even if they smelled it, let alone eat it. However, any animal that dared to eat it was definitely not ordinary. Hyojin thought that even if the small wild boar dared to eat the poison sac, it would at least smell it and lick it first. Unexpectedly, as soon as he threw the poison sac, the small wild boar jumped up and swallowed the poison sac in midair. Chapter 54. After swallowing the poison sac, the little wild boar wobbled into the grass and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Is this guy's body resistant to poison? After coming up with this idea, Kuroto suddenly came up with a new test plan. In the past 2 days, there has been a problem that has been troubling him. That is, the lack of a qualified test subject. White mice were obviously not qualified to be used as living test subjects. This was because white mice's physique was too weak. Even the most common poison could cause fatal damage to them. Therefore, it was very difficult to test the strength of the poison through them. And the sudden appearance of this little wild boar solved this problem at once. After making up his mind, Hyojin did not stay in the Death Forest, but quickly returned home. Hyojin mainly designed 2 types of compound toxins. The first type of compound toxin is a paralytic toxin. The main raw material is the venom powder on the wings of the striped moth and the venom of the red-tailed scorpion, and the auxiliary material is the saliva of the giant mandible ant. The venom powder of the striped moth has a strong paralytic effect, and the venom of the red-tailed scorpion has the additional effect of accelerating blood circulation. Therefore, the combination of the two can quickly spread the paralytic toxin through the blood circulation to the poisoned person's whole body, causing the poisoned person to lose the ability to move in just a few breaths. As for the saliva of the giant mandible ant, it will become a very rare protective film after solidification, and mixed with the compound toxin, it can prolong the activity of the compound toxin by 4 to 5 times. The second type of compound toxin is a fatal toxin. The main raw material is the venom of the one-eyed viper, 2 kinds of poisonous spiders, and a poisonous centipede, and the auxiliary material is also the saliva of the giant mandible ant. The one-eyed viper has been with Hyojin for a long time, and its toxicity is already very strong. If it is mixed with other poisons and configured into a compound toxin, as long as the toxicity is not reduced, the standard antidotes distributed by the major ninja villages should not be able to do anything to it. Of course, these are just plans and ideas. If you want to turn all of these into reality, Hyojin needs to continue to experiment. After a whole afternoon of hard work, Hyojin had concocted a total of 10 bottles of poison. 5 of them were paralysis toxins, and the other 5 were fatal toxins. The reason why there were so many bottles was to test the best ratio of the various poisonous ingredients. It should be known that even if it was the same few ingredients, if the ratio was different, the toxicity of the concocted poison could be worlds apart. Seeing as it was getting late, Hyojin put away all of the poison and decided to go to the Forest of Death tomorrow to test the poison on the small wild boar. As for the night, he had other plans, Uchiha clan grounds. On his way home from school, Itachi saw the clansmen gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, seemingly discussing something. He stopped for a moment and pricked up his ears to listen. Shinichi actually lost? Yeah, I heard that they lost quite badly, and it was Jisue who carried them back. Too useless. How could the clan allow such trash to challenge it? Isn't this tarnishing the reputation of our Uchiha clan? Logically speaking, that kid Shinichi isn't weak either. He's been a Tokubetsu ninja for 2 years, right? How could he lose so badly? Is the kid from the Hyuga family really that powerful? That kid from the Hyuga family was just a chunin a few months ago. How powerful can he be? Jisue can say that he wasn't serious, but Shinichi really lost. If he loses again next time, we can't let that happen. We have to send a stronger one next time. After listening for a while, Itachi showed a helpless expression and thought to himself. As expected, there were 2 meanings in Itachi's mind. The first was that the clansmen couldn't help but challenge Hyojin, and the second was that the clansmen lost. Itachi slowly returned home with a load on his mind. When he passed by the corridor, he found his father sitting in front of the squatting chair in the courtyard, seemingly thinking about something. In order not to disturb his father, he subconsciously lightened his footsteps. At this moment, Uchiha Fuyue suddenly said, "Is it Itachi?" Itachi quickly stood up straight and said, "Father, I'm back." In the courtyard, Uchiha Fuyue did not turn back. He was still staring at the squatting chair in front of him and said calmly, "You've heard the rumors outside, right?" "Yes, I just heard." Uchiha Fuyue asked, "What do you think about this?" Everyone knew Itachi's talent. So from a long time ago, Uchiha Fuyue had already trained Itachi as the next clan leader of Uchiha. Therefore, Fuyue would ask Itachi's opinion on some matters from time to time to train Itachi's ability to deal with things. Itachi thought for a moment and replied, "For our Uchiha, this may be a good thing." Uchiha waved his hand and said, "You may leave." Itachi bowed to his father and then quietly left the courtyard. At night, after confirming that no one was spying on him, Hyojin closed the door and windows. At night, he would use the time to practice all kinds of tactics on the artificial tailed beast. To make an artificial tailed beast, in addition to a large number of sealing tactics, he also needed to use some shaping tactics and ninjutsu tactics. Moreover, in the process of making an artificial tailed beast, there must be no mistakes in all the tactics. If a mistake was made, there would be no chance to modify it, and the whole plan would be in vain. Therefore, before starting the artificial tailed beast plan, Hyojin must be proficient in all the tactics and must be 100% accurate. And to achieve this, there is no other way but to practice hard. So taking advantage of the long vacation given by the 3 generations, Kuroda decided to use the nighttime to practice. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. As long as you practice enough, it is not difficult to achieve 100% accuracy. On the border of the land of fire and the land of hot water, Akumo Jonin crushed the throat of a my ninja in his hand and said to the Jinchuriki Yujito Ni next to him, "It seems that Mai hasn't noticed yet." The half-squatting Yujito Ni looked at the map on the ground and said, "Our team seems to be a bit slow." The Kumo Jonin also came over and looked at the map with a frown. The information obtained by the intelligence team is simply full of mistakes. Our speed of advancement is already considered fast. It shouldn't be a problem with the intelligence team. It is likely that I temporarily adjusted the defense of this border recently. After a pause, Yujito Ni said, "Forget it. Let's continue to advance. We must meet up with Karabi in 2 days." Chapter 55. Early in the morning, Hyojin came to the Forest of Death with a bulging bag. He thought that would take some time to find the little wild boar, but he didn't expect that as soon as he arrived at the small pond where the little wild boar often appeared, the little wild boar jumped out of the grass. It's not so much that he found the little wild boar, it's that the little wild boar found him. Today, the little wild boar is obviously bigger than yesterday, but the hair on the back half of its buttocks was bitten off. It seems that it was severely beaten by other beasts in the forest. Looking at the little wild boar limping, Hyojin smiled. Who did you provoke to be beaten so badly? After laughing, Hyojin put down the bag on his back, took out a large piece of meat from it, then cut the meat into strips with a short knife and placed them on the ground. The little wild boar squatted on the side and stared at the meat strips. After placing the meat strips, Hyojin first numbered them one by one, then took out 5 bottles of paralysis toxin and injected them into the number 15 meat strip. The poison used in these 5 bottles of paralysis poison was the same, but the proportion of the poison was different. What Hyojin wants to test today is which of the 5 bottles of paralysis toxin is the most toxic, and then further fine-tune the paralysis toxin according to the results. After getting ready, Hyojin threw the number 1 meat strip to the little wild boar. The little wild boar had been craving for the meat for a long time. Seeing this, it ran over and swallowed the number 1 meat strip in 2 or 3 bites. Then, it squatted on the ground and stared at the rest of the meat strips. Hyojin quickly used the Tenseigan to observe carefully. However, the little wild boar that ate the number 1 meat strip containing paralysis toxin is completely fine, whether it is the weak chakra in its body or the muscles all over its body. There is no obvious change. The only change is that the saliva flowing out of the corner of its mouth seems to be more than before. No way. What is injected in a number 1 meat strip is not an ordinary toxin, but a compound paralysis toxin carefully prepared by Hyojin. In his estimation, even the physique of Chunin may not be able to withstand it. However, this ordinary little wild boar in front of him was completely fine after eating the poisoned strips of meat. This was difficult for him to accept. Unconvinced, Kuroto tossed meat strip number 2 out, then meat strip number 3, meat strip number 4, meat strip number 5. The little wild boar accepted all of it without the slightest bit of politeness. After eating, other than its mouth dripping with oil and its saliva spilling all over the ground, there were no other changes. The veins on Hyojin's forehead bulged as he watched the little wild boar intimately rubbing against his leg and even smearing its saliva on his pants. This little wild boar did not have the self-awareness of a live test subject and actually treated him as a breeder. Do you really think I can't deal with you? Embarrassed, Hyojin angrily took out the compound lethal toxin, injected it into number 6 meat strip, and threw it to the little wild boar. An hour later, Hyojin returned home and started a new toxin preparation. As for the ones from before, he threw them all away. If I can't even deal with a little wild boar that has some resistance to poison, such a compound toxin has no value at all. In the next few days, Hyojin had been preparing the toxin, testing it, and re-preparing the toxin repeatedly. Speaking of gains, it was not like he did not gain anything at all. At least the little wild boar that he used to test the poison had been fed until it was fat and strong. It was another morning. As soon as Hyojin went out, he found someone standing in front of his house. When the person saw Hyojin going out, he stood up and blocked Hyojin's way. He said, "My name is Uchiha." Yimu is in a hurry to do something? Lazy? Snicker? Old friend? Injian? Chanlong? Looking at the thin and cold-eyed Uchiha clansman in front of him, Hyojin's mind immediately flashed with the contents of the small note that Jishui had handed him last night. Uchiha, Sientu, Wanshimon, Maochimon, Lao, Yu, Envy Yu, Shirue, Meisia, Bai Shixingyan, Donjumu, Judging from a description on Jishui's note, this Uchiha, dark Nii Chianh, a weakness like poor stamina might be very serious in a battle of life and death, but in a competition between ninjas from the same village, it was not a big weakness. It was obvious that the Uchiha clan had put in a lot of effort to win back their reputation. So, the only person Hyojin can use now is Uchiha, Ba Mei Xie, Bai Shixingyan, banana rice, school, milk. Please do not stand on ceremony with me. Please forgive me. After pondering for a moment, Hyojin said, "Follow me." Uchiha, waving and writing. The emperor preemptively talks about two with Uchiha, jacket blowing boat, rustling man. Conylodactyl polypus, obstruction vermiculite, dripping solid collapse, skeleton Australia lang, radon benevolent judgment, stands tall Uchiha. What kind of lawsuit is this? Squandering the XIN department dumplings and praying for the rest of the pay? Making fun of people who sue each other? Block the body to break down and bleed. How many tricks are there? Lang Rongren cut the kitchen clamp small. Hyojin smiled and said, "Then let's compete in physical skills." After the battle with Iwamoto, Kuroda discovered that the conventional means of the Hyuga clan were a bit ineffective against the unpredictable shinobi, so he deliberately provoked Uchiha. Huh, cut the roundworm, cut the alarm pole, taking orders from Scandium under false pretenses, bitter locust alliance, Rinyuan Mu Chao, pry, even the ash, unpardonable. The content of the competition was decided. Uchiha, yelling Wei Juanshuo Phlegm, ding the morning light that shone through the treetops shone on the blade of his short sword, reflecting a beautiful light, adding a bright color to the dewy grove. Hyojin's body sank slightly, his palms wrapped in blue chakra, one in front and one behind, guarding the door in front of him. Whoosh! A breeze blew, blowing a few leaves down. The leaves swirled in the air, fluttering, and then fell on Uchiha, Baji Ni's phlegm, Domuyu Jushi, Shi, Mu milling wantonly watering Gyujin's expression froze, and he thought to himself, good sword. If a master of swordsmanship was equipped with a good sword, his combat power would skyrocket. Uchiha, Baji Ni's phlegm ding. Let's talk about patrol, what Guai Memu Mei ding. Just the intimidating sword energy on the body of the sword made Hyojin's heart skip a beat. Whoosh, Uchiha, Ba Xiaoan, play, hiss, gluttony la, Xing AI, bottle brand product silk, warbler terpene lawsuit, already obstructing worm, slack Uchiha. What about Minamata Rin Chi? Chin obstructing worm, slack now? House school, Neju Huan, He, Soul, Qian Huan Jiulu, Jia Xiaoliang Shan, evenly obstructing worm, slack, waving fire dumpling cow, plagiarism, Yuan Su Zai weary, song first, in an instant. Chapter 56. The spirit that a person shows on the outside can reflect his truest heart. This, Hyojin firmly believes. Uchiha, Baxiang, Idong breeding Di Mu Yuan, envy Assel too? From noisy to cowardly? Di Mu slaughtering Yun Miao, envy Assel now Yuan grain? Yuan Yin seed heart and locust tree? Phlegm man, surging Wei, is this pride in his own saber skills and trust in his saber that makes him unconsciously take risks every time he falls into a fierce battle. This shortcoming he has never been aware of. In other words, in the entire Uchiha clan, except for Jishuei, no one has noticed this. And sometimes small details are the key to victory or defeat. With Uchiha, Rake Emblem, Beijelu, Barrier Vermiculi, see? Squint condyle value, oyster peptone, tastes like swan base. Sha, with a sharp whistling sound of a short knife cutting through the wind. Another tree as thick as a person was cut off at the waist. Including this one, there have been 8 or 9 trees in the small forest that have been brutally cut by Uchiha. Dark moon mortar forgive and, with the help of the smoke and dust stirred up by the falling tree trunk, Hyojin successfully pulled away from Uchiha. Dad? Yak move fu? Uchiha, right? Jiet, dusk, skeleton, dark rake, One oval peak, muddled, handsome Hyojin's face was calm. Do you only know how to cut trees? You, Uchiha, rake, emperor, protect, strontium? Hyojin did not continue to ridicule, but focused on dealing with Uchiha. Rake, emperor, protect, protruding? Rake, emperor, protect, grave beer? Uchiha, Huan, timid dispatch, roundworm emu? 3. Naruing Meng leg, dripping assel. Steel Sigma book. Yun Xiao, first carbon pocket mold. Huang Bian. Kong Mu Envy assel. Di Chao cup fanning luo. Rake pin ting ting, ding. To be honest, without Rain Wheel and 3 generations of Kazakage puppets, can Hyojin really take down Uchiha? Regretful Emperor's Judgment? Brothergoo? But, Ruena, the fluster couple on Pao Hui Street right now. Hyojin's strategy was very simple, and that was to stall. Did he want to drag it out until Uchiha, target Mother Sigma, merge, force, woo? Song Huey's surname was Ho, pastime, and Yesong Frostbite, universal feed like most Uchiha. Uchiha? How can I hide in the dark? Wriggling worms protruding out of the ground to recite Cole. That you choose on bushes and shakes his head. Every move was filled with killing intent. However, if the killing intent was too strong, it would lack variation. In this way, in the eyes of Hyojin's reincarnation, Uchiha, dark oyster fighting common waterlogging, chewing cluster banana pop, quandary and danger, stare at me? Is the pleasure comparable to a salt store? Curtain? My gown is unadorned and unadorned. However, Hyojin was not in a hurry. He believed in the information from Jishui, but he trusted his own eyes more. After another round of chasing, the two of them jumped out of the messy woods one after the other and arrived at a lake, startling the villagers who were washing their clothes by the lake. Standing on the surface of the lake, Hyojin panted lightly as he said, "Looks like you're stronger than the last guy." Uchiha, the cormorant's broken bones are replaced by a mountain peak. A clang of the Tartars. Brandish the fierce arrow with a bow, and a bow shaped by fear, and fear Uchiha, Uchiha. Boil the rabbit soil, to look at people you see gone. Without a doubt, his stamina was not very good to begin with, and he had been in a state of anxiety where he could not vent his killing intent, causing his stamina consumption to be much greater than Hyojin's. Knowing that the time was ripe, Hyojin smiled and said, "Hide and seek? Your shallowness is really shocking." Not waiting for Uchiha, press the button. Barrier worm, rice oval, Si Chiao, Uchiha, Ding, Chun, Chu Huiwe, Ruan Huai ton broken bamboo block worm, slack in an instant. The calm lake surface surged with turbulent waves. In the waves, the two people fiercely fought. As soon as they started fighting, Hyojin felt that Uchiha, dark stag fighting Rome, Proudy Sanjibo, Gongchun coin pao, Shajiao, jealous porcelain pirate boat, ring, cup enchantment, chanting Ji Qin Jinbao. However, killing intent alone could not kill people. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. In the eyes of the reincarnation, Hyojin discovered Uchiha, Hero Huan Ling, Zhong Huan Bao Na Pu, but he was still not in a hurry. What he was waiting for was not just to defeat Uchiha. Dark Mantle, Curtain, Sewing Huan, Chu Ruan Gaudian Dispatch, Ba Zhong Huai Tun Dun Canopy, Curtain. He wanted to completely destroy Uchiha. Dark Man Judge. After several breaths of time, an opportunity finally appeared. Hyojin no longer hesitated. He immediately turned his palm into a fist and punched at Uchiha. Miasong just as Hyojin expected. Uchiha, an awakening Yu punishment? Cooking? Resentment, resentment, resentment? Cowering in fear? As expected of someone who likes to take risks. Hyojin's lips curled up into a smile. At the same time, he suddenly swung his fist up and hit Uchiha. Am I worth the Neon Polaris? Huihuangzong Qingping? Phlegm, trembling, and folding, the entire process of seizing the saber happened in the blink of an eye. After Hyojin snatched the katana and retreated, Uchiha, overflowing with flattery, commanding crabs to obey, bass-playing with the dagger in his hand, Hyojin said lightly, "It is indeed a good dagger, but the person who used it is lacking in experience." You, Hyojin threw the dagger back to Uchiha. Yak Ao, song, trick. After saying that, Kuroto ignored the stunned Uchiha. Ton of oxum, rip, crack. Not long after, Jishui appeared in front of Hyojin and asked, "Senior, did it go well? Because of Uchiha, Dark Neon Robber, Rui Jun, Goo, waving evil salt to raise Naishi, Mother, snuggling?" Waving evil crotch to wash stomach? Make an example of the people, play the gray lie? Tanchuan Jian? Haijin nodded and said, it went well. But that Uchiha? Bakangamo? Emperor Miesong? High-grade Renyinyu? Mao? Cruising Yu. During the battle, although Haijin looked calm, as if he didn't care about Uchiha at all, Amine side consultation school, moisture-devouring she, wasteland sistanch, sleeping swollen, reeling legs, Valpacy, Yu, Duanshu. If he hadn't limited himself to only using physical skills from the beginning, would he have been able to defeat Uchiha? Kishi Ji Chao Mo? Ji Shui smiled and said, I'm not worried about you at all, senior. You also know that it's not convenient to use some means in the village. After a pause, Haijin continued, if Uchiha sends someone stronger next time, I really won't be able to deal with it. This time against Uchiha? Obstacle rice, ostrichia, Hongyu, Wan, Luayu, Sha Shouyu, Case, Nashinju. Moreover, Haijin accepted Uchiha's challenge. In addition to honing himself, he also wants to use Uchiha's name to make himself famous. Although Uchiha is not likable, but his name is still very famous. Although the ninjas in the village don't say it, but in their hearts, they have already classified Uchiha as an elite. And the village's elders are full of suspicion about Uchiha. So using Uchiha as a stepping stone can be regarded as the most efficient and safest way to become famous. Chapter 57. Uchiha's challenge to Haijin was initially limited to the discussion within the Uchiha clan. But with the rise of Uchiha, Shinichi, and Uchiha, the dark south stream flowing, Strijanshu, Haijin, Shun Haijin, Yuna Haijin, Nana seizes the skill to catch the six-ship mansion at night. After cleaning up the dishes, you hesitated for a moment and finally couldn't help but ask, Kuroto, is what they said outside true? Haijin was still thinking about the poison concoction, so he asked absent-mindedly, what did they say outside? You hurriedly said, it's about you and Uchiha. Oh, you're talking about this. After a smile, Haijin nodded and said, well, Uchiha did send people to challenge me, but I defeated them. You said with a worried look, the people of Uchiha are not easy to provoke. Let's not provoke them, okay? Haijin heard this and looked at you in a daze. You asked carefully, did I say something wrong? Haijin shook his head. He was indeed a little surprised just now. He really didn't expect that you, who was a member of the Hyuga clan, would be so afraid of Uchiha. From this, it can be seen what kind of attitude the ordinary ninjas in the village have towards Uchiha. It can be said that in terms of people's heart alone, Uchiha has been completely separated from the village. Thinking of this, Haijin's face was a little gloomy. Uchiha is not only a stepping stone for Haijin to become famous, but also a magnet that helps Haijin attract attention. As long as the Uchiha clan is there, whether it is the 3 generations, Danzo, or even the obsidian hidden behind the scenes, their eyes will only be focused on the Uchiha clan. And once the Uchiha clan is no longer around, who will these people focus their eyes on? Kuroto doesn't know. Therefore, from the perspective of Haijin's own interests, the Uchiha clan could not be destroyed. At least, before his strength reached the Kage level, it could not be destroyed too quickly. This was another reason why he was willing to cooperate with Jishui. What's more, Haijin still had his eyes on the divine artifact Sword of 10 Fists and Yada no Kagami. In his impression, Orochimaru, who could use Orochi Jutsu to rival tail beasts, was sealed by Itachi's Tenseigan sword. During the whole confrontation, Orochimaru barely fought back and was easily suppressed by Itachi. Because of this, Haijin had a deep impression of Itachi's 2 artifacts. Haijin had many guesses as to what these 2 divine artifacts were. In his opinion, there were only 2 possibilities. First, the Sword of 10 Fists and Yada no Kagami are only the unique abilities of Itachi Susanoo. They are part of Itachi's own chakra, and it is impossible for them to exist independently. Second, these 2 artifacts are some kind of spiritual artifact in the state of chakra, so they could be directly equipped on Itachi's Susanoo. Between these 2 possibilities, Hyojin was more inclined to the latter. Because when Itachi used Tenseigan sword and Yagami mirror, Orochimaru and Black Zetsu, who were watching the battle, recognized these two divine artifacts, and also knew some of the abilities of these two divine artifacts. Based on this point alone, it can be concluded that these two artifacts should have existed in the shinobi world for a long time, and they should have left some stories and legends in the shinobi world. Otherwise, it is impossible for Orochimaru and Black Zetsu to know the details of these two artifacts when Itachi used them for the first time. Logically or emotionally, this didn't make sense. Of course, before actually obtaining these two artifacts, everything is just speculation. As for the whereabouts of these two artifacts, Hyojin thought about it and felt that whether it is the first possibility or the second possibility, it is best to leave the task of finding the artifacts to Itachi. Because Orochimaru, who is familiar with many secrets of the shinobi world, was unable to find the Sword of 10 Fists even after searching for many years, it is obvious that these two artifacts must be hidden in a very special place. Kuroto even suspects that the clues leading to the whereabouts of these two artifacts are hidden in the Uchiha clan, and Itachi may have obtained this clue after the extinction of the Uchiha clan, and based on this clue, he found the two artifacts. After pondering for a while, Hyojin converged his thoughts. Itachi is still young, so the matter of the artifacts can be put aside for a while. After all, apart from Itachi, no one should be able to find these two artifacts in the next 10 years. And Hyojin's current priority is the artificial tailed beast plan. As long as he has the support of a large number of chakra, not only can he further explore the Tenseigan, but he can also boldly learn a variety of secret techniques and forbidden techniques. The next day, Hyojin came to the Death Forest as usual. After many failures, the 8th version of the paralysis toxin he had concocted finally showed some results. After feeding it to the little wild boar immediately felt numb. After struggling a few times, it fell straight to the ground. Although it only took 5 or 6 minutes, the little wild boar was full of energy again. But this is enough on the battlefield, not to mention losing the ability to move for 5 or 6 minutes. Even losing the ability to move for 5 or 6 seconds is enough to be a fatal flaw for a ninja. Seeing this, Hyojin smiled slightly. It seems that my idea is correct. Previously, he had only collected ordinary striped moths. Although the quantity was large, the toxicity was uneven. For the 8th version of the paralysis toxin, he used the poison powder of the king of poisonous moths. Although the quantity was much smaller, the toxicity was extremely potent. Moreover, he also found that the saliva of the giant jaw ant has the effect of inhibiting toxicity. So when preparing the toxin, he reduced the proportion of the saliva of the giant jaw ant. By doing so, although the duration of the paralysis toxin is reduced from the previous 3 days to 1 day, but the toxicity is guaranteed. After all, for the toxin, the toxicity is the most important factor. All other factors have to give way to the toxicity. Just as Hyojin was recording the results of the experiment and thinking about using the saliva of the giant jaw ant as the main material to prepare the antidote, a figure landed on the tree in front of him. "Jonin Hyojin, Naruto-sama urgently summons you." The person only left such a sentence and hurriedly left. It seems that he is in a hurry to send a message to other ninjas. Hyojin put away the notebook and frowned. The half-month holiday is not over yet. Did Rock Village really come? The reason why he was busy preparing the toxin during the holiday is that he was worried that Rock Village will use the destruction of the beheading unit as an excuse to attack Mai. After losing Yondaime-sama and the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, Konoha no longer has the deterrence it had at the end of the Third Shinobi World War, so it's not impossible for Rock Village to take a bite out of them. Chapter 58. After arriving at the Naruto building, Hyojin discovered that the place was already full of ninjas. Roughly counting, there were nearly 100 of them, and all of them were either Jonin or Jonin. Not a single genin was present. 3 generations suddenly gathered so many elite ninjas. There was no doubt about the seriousness of the situation. Hyojin silently walked towards the team, 11 in the corner of the building. Guy greeted Kuroto. "Why are you so late? We have been waiting for you for a long time." Hyojin didn't explain that he came from the Death Forest. Instead, he asked, "What is the purpose of this emergency meeting?" The members of the team, 11, shook their heads. Obviously, including Captain Kakashi, no one knew the reason for this emergency meeting. Jishui guessed, maybe it has something to do with Rock Village. Kakashi also nodded in agreement. The battle between Team 11 and Rock Village's beheading unit in the Land of Bear has undoubtedly given Rock Village the best excuse to launch an attack, so everyone has been mentally prepared these days. Because of the gag order, they didn't continue this topic and chatted about other things. Not long after, 3 generations Naruto, Mito Kimenhamura, Zhuan Shao-chun, and the 3 patriarchs of the Ino Shikacho clan, as well as Hyuga Richa Hyuga of the Hyuga clan, appeared one after another. With the appearance of 3 generations Naruto, the meeting hall immediately quieted down. At this time, 3 generations stepped forward and announced, "2 hours ago, we received a message from the border. Cloud Village launched a raid on the border of the Land of Fire 3 days ago." Suddenly hearing this news, the originally quiet meeting hall suddenly became noisy. The invasion of Cloud Village reminded everyone of the Third Shinobi World War that ended not long ago. And the tragedy of the Third Shinobi World War, just thinking about it makes people shudder. It contains too many painful memories, and most of the ninjas present in the meeting hall don't want to recall that war. The 4 members of Team 11 were surprised and suspicious at the same time. Guy murmured, "Isn't it Rock Village? How did it become Cloud Village?" Kakashi frowned. "This is bad," Jishui whispered. "Cloud and Rock won't join hands, right?" If that's the case, Jisha didn't finish her words, nor did she need to, because everyone understood that with Mai's current situation, it would be impossible for him to resist the joint attack of Cloud and Rock Village. Recalling the memories of his previous life, Hyojin shook his head and said, "Things are not that bad. 3 generations of Lei Ying died in Rock Village's hands. Cloud Village will not form an alliance with Rock Village, and Rock Village will not trust Cloud Village. Therefore, even if Rock Village had the intention to attack us before, after seeing Cloud Village attack first, they will choose to stay put and watch us and Cloud Village suffer losses." In his impression, after the Third Shinobi World War, Mai and Cloud Village did have a small conflict. Later, when Cloud Village's representative came to Mai to sign the peace agreement, the Cloud Shinobi leader kidnapped Hinata and was killed by Hyuga Hayashi. It was also this incident that led to Rich's death. Therefore, Hyojin feels that this conflict with Cloud Village may not be small, but it shouldn't develop to the point of a Shinobi World War. After listening to Hyojin's analysis, the members of Team 11 were slightly relieved. 3 generations raised his hand and calmed down the discussion in the meeting hall, then said, "According to the known information, Cloud Village's commanders are Hachibi's Jinchuriki and Aida. In addition, Nibi's Jinchuriki Yujito is also in the raid team." Hearing that Cloud Village actually sent 2 Jinchuriki in a row, the Mai ninjas in the meeting hall were both indignant and worried. Seeing that everyone was shocked by the power of the 2 Jinchuriki, 3 generations announced in an indisputable tone, "You will form an advance team and be responsible for stopping the invasion of Cloud Village." Yes, under the majestic tone of 3 generations, the Mai ninjas seemed to have regained some confidence and all bowed to accept the order. 3 generations continued, "Shikaku, until Jiraiya arrives, you will temporarily serve as the commander of the advance team. Richa, you will serve as the deputy commander of the advance team." Shikaku and Hyuga Richa immediately stepped forward and accepted the appointment of 3 generations. Finally glancing at the crowd, 3 generations said, "Umbu, stay. The rest of you go back and prepare." Whoosh, with the order of 3 generations, a figure flashed out of the meeting hall. Soon, the previously crowded meeting hall was only left with 3 generations Naruto, 2 Naruto advisors, and 16 Umbu members, including Hyojin's Team 11. At this time, Sandame Sama, took 4 scrolls from Hamura's hand and handed them to the 4 captains of Umbu and ordered, "Your mission is recorded in these scrolls. This is related to the safety of the village. You must do your best." The 16 Umbu captains who knelt in front of 3 generations replied in unison, "Please rest assured, Naruto-sama. We will definitely complete the mission." 3 generations nodded. "Team 11 stay, the other squads go and prepare." After the other 3 Umbu squads left, 3 generations led the 4 members of Team 11 to Naruto's office. After lighting the pipe and taking a deep breath, 3 generations slowly said, "According to the rules, you can only apply to learn advanced ninjutsu after serving as an Umbu for a full year, but this mission is very serious, so I, in the name of 3 generations Naruto, give you special permission to apply to learn advanced ninjutsu." 3 generations special permission refers to Hyojin, Guy, and Jishui. As for the captain of Team 11, Kakashi, he is already an old member of the Umbu, so he is not included in the scope of this special permission. Hyojin didn't expect that there would be such a benefit, so he pondered for a moment and asked, "Naruto-sama, what level of ninjutsu can we apply to learn?" 3 generations said, "Some A-level ninjutsu, and most B-level ninjutsu." After listening, Hyojin fell into deep thought at the border of the country of fire and the country of rain. Accompanied by the cry of an eagle, Mai's messenger eagle quickly swept across the valley and flew in the direction of the country of rain. This messenger eagle was specially trained by Mai, and it is a bird of prey in the air. Not only does it fly fast, but it also doesn't fear most other birds of prey, and it has almost no natural enemies. It is the last resort that Mai uses to send urgent messages. Suddenly, a shuriken shot out of nowhere and accurately hit the messenger eagle flying at high speed. Bang! The messenger eagle suddenly fell from the sky and fell hard on a high cliff. At this time, the space above the high cliff twisted, and then a mysterious person wearing a one-eyed mask walked out of the twisted vortex. Chapter 59. If you have to choose between A-level and B-level ninjutsu, Hyojin feels that the more useful ones for him at present are the B-level Shadow Clone Jutsu and the A-level Multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. For a Taijutsu ninja, Shadow Clone Jutsu is a ninjutsu that can instantly multiply the combat power of the user. If used properly, it can often play a miraculous effect in battle. And as a powerful clan, the Hyuga clan must also have collected Shadow Clone Jutsu, or even multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. Therefore, Hyojin originally planned to first complete Hyuga Rich's entrustment and solve the vote of confidence for the promotion of the clan to Jonin, and then use this matter to ask the clan to learn ninjutsu. Unexpectedly, the plan can't keep up with the changes, and now it is too late to make a request to the clan. But even so, he still doesn't want to use the opportunity granted by the 3 generations to learn ninjutsu to learn Shadow Clone Jutsu. Because the opportunity provided by the 3 generations this time is too rare, it can be said that this is the only opportunity for him to learn Fuin Jutsu, so he must firmly grasp it. As for Shadow Clone Jutsu, he decided to start with Jishui. In order to deal with Uchiha's challenge, Jishui owes him a lot of favors, and a mere B-level Shadow Clone Jutsu as a gift is obviously not too much. After making up his mind, Hyojin said in a deep voice, "Naruto-sama, I hope to learn advanced Fuin Jutsu." The 3 generations frowned. Fuin Jutsu? The practice of Fuin Jutsu has extremely high requirements for the ninja. If you're not a ninja who specializes in Fuin Jutsu since childhood, then you often need to reach the level of elite Jonin in order to successfully learn advanced Fuin Jutsu. This involves not only the problem of chakra's amount, but also the ability of the ninja to control their own chakra. A very small number of Fuin Jutsu even require the ninja to reach a certain level of Fuin Jutsu or have a special bloodline, so the threshold of Fuin Jutsu cultivation is very high. After hesitating for a moment, the 3 generations finally agreed to Hyojin's request. After all, the choice was in Hyojin's hands. Even Naruto didn't have much reason to interfere in personal matters. After confirming Hyojin's request, the three generations asked Guy and Jishui in turn. Guy gave up the opportunity to learn advanced ninjutsu without hesitation on the reason of focusing on taijutsu. Three generations nodded in approval. Perhaps it is precisely because of Guy's dedication to taijutsu that he became one of the few ninjas who could threaten Madara in the Fourth Shinobi World War. As a member of the Uchiha clan, Jishui has no shortage of A-class and B-class ninjutsu, so he was prepared to give up this opportunity to learn advanced ninjutsu. But seeing that Hyojin chose to learn, if he and Guy both gave up, it would make Hyojin very embarrassed, so he randomly chose a B-class fire-release ninjutsu. Following Sandaime-sama, Homasubi and Homasubi followed Sandaime-sama to the secret database located in the basement of the Hokage building. On the way to the confidential database, Hyojin fully activated the Tenseigan to record every detail on the way. There are hidden sentries at the two corners of the first floor leading to the basement, 2 people in each corner, a total of 4 people. Judging from the chakra's amount, they should be special jonin. There are ninjutsu techniques in the passage. 1, 2, 3. There are 5 in total. They should be sensory-type ninjutsu techniques. If the person who enters doesn't have Sandaime-sama's chakra or any other characteristics, these ninjutsu techniques should be activated. There are ceiling techniques on this row of stairs. It looks very strange. Not like the Uzumaki clan's usual ceiling techniques, Hyojin observed while analyzing the possibility of sneaking in. The overall security of the Naruto building was not as strict as imagined, which may also have something to do with the village's recent lack of manpower. Aside from the staff in the building, there were about a dozen Chunin guards in the open, and there seemed to be only 3 to 4 Umbu squads in the dark, including the Shadow Guard squad who had been protecting 3 generations. Although the number of guards was not many, if there were 3 generations personally guarding, such a defense would be enough to guard against most enemies. Hyojin's expression did not change, and he silently put away his thoughts. Along the stairs, under the guidance of 3 generations, Hyojin and Jishui came to the door of the confidential database in the basement. At this time, 3 generations quickly made a seal and then pressed one hand on the door of the confidential database. Bang! The door made a low sound and then slowly opened. Come in. 3 generations greeted and took the lead to enter the confidential database. As soon as Hyojin stepped into the door of the confidential database, his eyes suddenly opened up. At this time, he realized that the confidential database underground was far larger than he had imagined. 3 generations skillfully shuttled through the rows of bookshelves, quickly took out 2 scrolls, and returned to Hyojin and Jishui. Jishui randomly chose a B-grade fire release ninjutsu that she did not know from the scroll that recorded fire release, and then silently retreated to the side. On the other hand, Kuroto was carefully selecting from the scrolls that introduce sealing techniques. There are a lot of sealing techniques available for Hyojin to choose from, including the common 5-element seal, 4-symbol seal, 8-trigram seal, as well as the uncommon evil seal, contract seal, and so on. After comparing and observing, Hyojin found that among these sealing techniques, the 4-symbol seal is the most similar to the Uzumaki clan, so after a little consideration, he chose the 4-symbol seal. 3 generations gently nodded, and then put away the introduction scrolls of sealing techniques and fire release. Then from the bookshelf, he selected the scroll that recorded the 4-symbol seal alone and the B-grade fire release scroll that Jishui chose, and handed them to Hyojin and Jishui respectively. 3 generations reminded, the ninjutsu that you learned in the Umbu class cannot be passed to others at will. You should have already known this when you joined the Umbu. Hyojin and Jishui nodded. These rules have long been known to Hyojin and Jishui. 3 generations finally said, hand the ninjutsu scroll within 1 month. If you go out on a mission, the time can be postponed. If you encounter an accident, destroy the scroll and never leak it. Yes. As soon as they left the Naruto building, Hyojin mentioned the shadow clone technique to Jishui. Shursui was stunned as soon as he heard this. In his opinion, Kuroda should have already mastered a grade B jutsu like the Shadow Clone Jutsu, since he was able to kill the elite Jonin of the Rock Village one-on-one. Chapter 60. Jishui didn't think too much about it, and immediately explained and demonstrated to Hyojin the sequence of a Shadow Clone Jutsu, as well as the method of running chakra in his body. With just a little try, Hyojin roughly mastered the Shadow Clone Jutsu. After all, with his current chakra's amount, mastering a B-class jutsu isn't difficult at all. Not to mention that he has the Tenseigan, so he can clearly observe the trajectory of the chakra in Jishui's body when she demonstrated the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Even a stupid person can easily learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This is the convenience of Jutsu Kekkei Genkai in learning jutsu. In the future, Kakashi won the title of Mai's #1 technician, copy ninja, and so on, all thanks to the Sharingan given to him by Obsidian. 3 generations left Team 11 with only 3 hours of preparation time. So after mastering the Shadow Clone Jutsu, Hyojin and Jishui returned home to prepare for the secret mission. Considering that this is a fierce conflict that is close to a state of war, and the opponent is Cloud Village, whose strength is not inferior to Mai, Hyojin didn't dare to be careless. Shuriken, kunai, senbon, and other throwing tools, kurodo, and the rest are sealed in the storage scroll. He prepared a total of 500 detonation talismans, which is all the stock he saved after being promoted to Tokubetsu Jonin. 1 bottle of paralysis toxin, 2 bottles of antidote, 3 rolls of medical bandages, and 1 bottle of rations pill. By the time Suijin was ready to go out, the ninja pouches around his waist were already bulging with all the ninja items. At the door, he met Yu, who was running in a hurry. Hyojin smiled gently and said, "Why are you so flustered?" Looking at Hyojin's outfit, Yu bit her lips and said, You must be careful." Belle had thousands of words in her heart, but when the words reached her mouth, she could only say be careful. Hyojin reached out and touched Yuki's head, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. "I'm now a Jonin, so it's not me who needs to be careful, but the Cloud Ninjas." Ling felt relieved after sensing Hyojin's confidence. She took out an exquisite dagger and handed it to Hyojin. "This is what the Patriarch asked me to give you." Clang. Hyojin unsheathed the dagger from its scabbard, and the dagger immediately emitted a metallic sound. Even the warm sunlight could not disperse the cold air lingering on the dagger. With just a glance, the sharpness of the blade made people feel uneasy. Hyojin blurted out, "Good sword." Ling continued, "Chief said that this dagger is called Grass. Pill is a chakra sword. After injuring the enemy, it has the special ability to prevent the enemy's wound from healing." Grass? Kuroda was taken aback for a moment and thought to himself, could it be that this is also the Manchurian grass? One of the swords. Hyojin was slightly surprised by Hyuga Hayashi's sudden gift of a sword, but he was not surprised. Today, his status was no longer the same as before. As an Umbu directly under Naruto, he could meet Naruto at any time, anywhere, and he also had the ability to participate in some of the village's affairs. Moreover, he had recently defeated Uchiha, Shinichi, and Uchiha in succession. Dark Milk Dumpling Sword? Dawn? Chunbaime White Song School? Surprised Emperor Charming Strange, dispirited discouraged? Paisu, if Hyuga Hayashi doesn't win him over, then Hayashi's position as the Patriarch would be in vain. In fact, the decline of the Hyuga clan is very obvious. Although there are many Jonin in the clan, there are only a few who can be regarded as elite Jonin. Among the younger generation, except for Hyojin, there is no other decent character. Therefore, the Hyuga clan's low profile is not only because of their style of doing things, but also because of the serious decline of the overall strength of the clan. Hyojin was surprised because he didn't expect that the Patriarch would give him such a precious treasure, which made him sigh with emotion. A powerful shinobi clan with 1,000 years of inheritance really has some heritage. After saying goodbye to Ling, Hyojin rushed to the assembly point of Team 11. Jishui and Guy had already arrived, but Kakashi's figure was nowhere to be seen. After waiting for a long time, Kakashi finally arrived. Guy asked curiously, "What took you so long?" Kakashi said with an apologetic look on his face, "I just went to the Soul Comfort Monument. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long." Hyojin frowned when he heard this. Kakashi actually went to the Soul Comfort Monument before carrying out the secret mission, which made Kuroto feel a trace of unease. It seems that the secret mission arranged by the three generations is not ordinary. The time to set off was approaching, so everyone no longer chatted and immediately set off. On the way, Hyojin tentatively asked, "What is the mission of our Team 11? Jishuei and Guy also looked at Kakashi, who was leading the way. The mission scrolls issued by the three generations are all kept by the captain, so at present only Kakashi knows the specific information of the secret mission of Team 11. Kakashi shook his head. "I can't say it yet." In order to prevent the information from being leaked, the captain often only tells the details of the mission to the team members when they are about to arrive at the mission location. And the more this is the case, the more Hyojin feels that this mission is not simple. Perhaps it has nothing to do with stopping the invasion of the Cloud Village, because if it's just stopping the invasion of the enemy, there's no need to be so secretive. In the following week, Team 11 took a detour all the way, avoiding the invasion of the Land of Fire and approaching the border of the Land of Hot Water. At this time, everyone in Team 11 also guessed that this secret mission will probably be carried out in the enemy's territory. Captain Kakashi no longer concealed it. He spread a map on the ground, pointed to a red dot on it, and said, "It's here. It's the target of our mission this time." The red dot on the map is located at the border of the Land of Thunder and the Land of Moon. Looking at the terrain on the map, it seems to be in a valley, and the surrounding environment is very complicated. Kakashi then said, "This is the secret warehouse of the Cloud Village. It stores a large number of ninja tools and food. Once we destroy this place, the Cloud Village's offensive in the Land of Fire will be forced to slow down." Jishuei immediately asked, "What about the enemy's guards?" Kakashi shook his head silently, and after a while, he replied, "The intelligence team only investigated the location, but didn't find out the situation of the guards, so we have to prepare for the worst. Even if Cloud Village sends 100 ninjas to guard the warehouse, it wouldn't be surprising. But Team 11 only has 4 people. Although they aren't weak, they are in the enemy's territory. No matter how you look at it, the odds of success for this secret mission are not big." Chapter 61. At this time, Kakashi said another piece of news. The main force of Rock Village is already gathered at the border of the Land of Grass, so we must end the conflict with Cloud Village as soon as possible. Otherwise, if Rock Village feels that there is an opportunity, they may intervene at any time. The conflict between the 5 great shinobi villages has never been isolated. When Cloud Village launched a surprise attack on Konoha, Rock Village received the news and will inevitably respond accordingly. Perhaps as the news spreads further, San Crypsis and Mist Village will also respond accordingly. But these are not issues that Team 11 needs to consider right now. Jishuei asked with a serious face. "In other words, our mission is related to the safety of Konoha?" Kakashi nodded. "If our mission fails, Konoha may fall into a very disadvantageous situation, and the tragedy of the Third Shinobi War will reappear." Guy didn't show the slightest fear or depression and said, "Then what are you waiting for? Let's go." Kakashi put away the map and said calmly, "I will complete the final surprise attack. The 3 of you only need to cover me." On the battlefield in the Land of Fire, in a semi-liberated state, Chillabai easily blocked Akimichi Kuza's multi-sizing technique, and with a sweep of his 8 tails, he fiercely swept Kuza to the side. Immediately afterward, Chillabai said in a strange tone, "Hey, why did I only send you guys?" Shikaku and Nakayama Koichi on the opposite side suddenly looked helpless when they heard this. In their eyes, Chillabai, who could coordinate perfectly with Hachibi, was a monster through and through. Ino Shikacho and the other 2 could barely resist him even if they joined forces. Glancing at the situation of other battlefields from the corner of his eyes, seeing that Mai's side has fallen into a disadvantageous position, Shikaku couldn't help but say anxiously, Why hasn't Jiraiya-sama arrived yet? Such a monster is not something that ordinary ninjas can resist. Not far away. Richa Hyuga gasped for breath and stared at the black-haired cloud ninja in front of him. The other party was none other than the deputy commander of the Kyumo invasion force, the mist-release ninja Ida. Before Hizashi arrived, 2 squads of Konoha ninjas had already died in Aida's hands. If it weren't for Hizashi blocking Aida's attack, the nearby Konoha ninjas would have been killed by Ida, and Hizashi wouldn't have been able to escape. Ida sneered. "You're no match for me." Richa didn't retort. Instead, he silently thought of a countermeasure. Mist release ninjutsu is a combination of lightning release and water release. It not only has the destructive power of lightning release, but also has the control and flexibility of water release. Coupled with the fact that Ida is an experienced elite jonin, the mist release displayed by him is simply impossible to guard against, and is very effective in restraining a ninja like Richa. Glancing at the caged bird technique faintly revealed on Richa's forehead, Ida curled his lips and said, "It's a pity that you're a member of the branch family. Otherwise, I would be able to collect a pair of Byakugan." Richa's face turned cold, and he immediately adjusted his forehead protector, completely covering the caged bird technique. Aida's words had inadvertently touched the deepest sore spot in his heart. On another battlefield at the far end, the Jinchuriki Yujito Ni in a completely liberated state is almost unstoppable. The entire battlefield has become a stage for her to unscrupulously vent her chakra. At this time, 8 my ninjas shouted together, "Earth release! Earth release!" Huge earth walls rose from all directions, and then suddenly closed together, covering the entire Yujito Ni in the tailed beast state. Roar! Before the surrounding my ninjas could breathe a sigh of relief, accompanied by a roar, the Yujito Ni in the tailed beast state easily broke through the earth release and clawed at the my ninjas. With a sweep of the claw, 6 or 7 my ninjas were killed on the spot, and the rest who escaped were all injured. Water release, water chaos wave. Earth release, earth spear. Thunder release, thunder tiger earth run. The remaining my ninjas did not dare to be stingy with chakra, and immediately released a series of ninjutsu. Boom! Countless ninjutsu smashed on the Yujito Ni in the tailed beast state, but failed to hurt her at all. In the tailed beast state, she opened her mouth, and several huge flames shot out from her mouth. In an instant, the surrounding forest was burned by these flames, and all the my ninjas were caught in the sea of fire. Cough, cough. The only my ninja who was seriously injured and did not die coughed up blood and said unwillingly, "If 4 generations and 9 tails of Jinchuriki were still here before he finished speaking, Yujito Ni crushed him under her claws and said coldly, 'Unfortunately, they are already dead.' Tsunade Heim ran away. Orochimaru defected. 4 generations Naruto and 9 tails of Jinchuriki unexpectedly died in battle, and the impact of a series of events finally broke out in the country of fire. In the face of the 2 perfect Jinchuriki of Cloud, Mai showed unprecedented weakness and powerlessness. On the side of Class 11, after a few days of trekking, the 4 finally passed through the country of hot water and entered the territory of the country of moon. The country of moon and the country of thunder are adjacent to each other, and it is an important buffer zone between the country of fire and the country of thunder. Mai and the Cloud Village have fought several astonishing battles here. Therefore, Mai has a very clear grasp of the terrain here, and the 4 people of Class 11 relied on the high-precision map drawn by the intelligence team to pass through the country of moon and reach the border of the country of thunder. At the border, standing on the top of a big tree, Kakashi looked at the valley in the distance and said, "It should be there." Hyojin looked over and shook his head after a moment. "There are a lot of sealing techniques in the valley, which interferes with the detection of my Byakugan, so I can't determine how many Cloud Ninjas are in there. Cloud Village has many years of experience in fighting with Mai, so in the defense of key facilities, they will take into account the detection of Mai's pupil technique and Kekkei Genkai ninjas, so they arrange corresponding preventive measures." Kakashi was not too disappointed and said calmly, "Then proceed according to the plan. You three are responsible for drawing the peripheral guards away. I will carry out the final attack." Guy hurriedly said, but, not waiting for Guy to finish his words, Kakashi interrupted him. "I am the captain. This is an order. Execute it." Jishue looked at Kakashi, and then looked at Hyojin, seeking his opinion. Guy also turned his head and looked at Hyojin. In his opinion, if there is anyone in Class 11 who can persuade Kakashi, it can only be Hyojin. Hyojin put one hand on his waist and the other hand on the hilt of his sword. On the hilt of Maru's sword, he lightly asked, "Kakashi, I only have one question for you. Are you confident?" Chapter 62. Late at night in the valley. A cool breeze blew, causing the two cloud ninjas to unconsciously tighten their robes. One of them suddenly asked, "Hey, did you hear something?" The other one listened for a while and shook his head. "Isn't it just the chirping of insects and birds?" "What's wrong? Did you hear something else?" At this moment, a black shadow suddenly rushed into the sentry post and rushed towards the two cloud ninjas with lightning speed. "Who is it?" The two Kumo ninjas only had time to let out a sigh of relief before they fell to the cold blade light. The black shadow stepped forward to check their breathing and heartbeat. After confirming that they were dead, the black shadow slowly stood up. He stood in the sentry post and looked at the secret warehouse located at the innermost part of the valley. The moonlight shone down and fell on the black figure, revealing his appearance. This black shadow is none other than Hyojin, who is responsible for leading the cloud guards away. After sneaking into the valley, Kuroto found that the Cloud Village has arranged a very tight defense in this valley. The secret warehouse is far away, but there is already a sentry every 10 steps. With such a tight defense, Hyojin guessed that the Cloud Village must have hoarded a lot of supplies here. However, after carefully observing for a moment with the Tenseigan, Kuroto's brows wrinkled more and more. There are at least 150 to 160 guards in the valley. If counting the guards in the dark, then there are at least 200 cloud ninjas in the entire valley. This situation is far beyond Hyojin's expectations. According to the speculation of the 4 members of Team 11, the number of enemies in the valley should be between 50 to 100, and their strategy this time is also designed with this premise in mind. Suddenly, there was a noise from the other side. Amidst the clamor, there were shouts and sounds of intense fighting. It was extremely ear-piercing in the silent valley. Hyojin looked towards the direction of the sound and murmured, "That direction should be Guy. How did they discover us so quickly?" The battle plan of Team 11 is very simple. First of all, Hyojin, Jishue, and Guy will sneak into the valley and assassinate the cloud ninjas guarding the periphery. If they are detected, they will immediately retreat and lead away some of the cloud ninjas around the secret warehouse. Then, Captain Kakashi would be in charge of raiding the secret warehouse located in the deepest part of the valley. Finally, after destroying the secret warehouse, the 4 members of Class 11 met up at the agreed retreat point and returned to Mai together. However, the premise of the entire battle plan was that the enemy was within 100 people, and from the current situation, this premise clearly did not exist, so Hyojin's heart surged with a bad premonition. After a while, the noise gradually faded away. The exposed guy has obviously been deployed, according to the plan, to distract some of the cloud ninjas. However, Guy's exposure also alerted the cloud ninjas in the entire valley. Immediately, teams of cloud ninjas spread out and searched the entire valley inch by inch. Seeing that the cloud ninjas were about to reach his side, Hyojin no longer hesitated and immediately threw the dozen or so kunai tied with detonation talismans one by one. Boom, boom, boom. A series of violent explosions suddenly sounded in the valley. Under the cover of the night and the smoke raised by the explosion, holding the Kusanagi, Hyojin rushed like a ghost towards the panicked cloud ninjas. "Who is it? Where? Enemy attack! Enemy attack!" Hyojin, under the cover of the smoke, wantonly harvested these cloud ninjas. In the blink of an eye, he killed 3 or 4 people. Wind release, great storm. The leader of the Cloud Ninjas reacted and immediately used the wind release to blow away the smoke caused by the detonation talismans. Without the cover of the smoke, Hyojin's figure was revealed in front of the Cloud Ninjas. The leader of the Cloud Ninjas quickly shouted, "It's the Mayumbu. Everyone be careful." This group of Cloud Ninjas composed of Chunin and Jinin sent a signal to the base camp in the depths of the valley while surrounding Hyojin. According to the plan, Hyojin should retreat now. But the number of Cloud Ninjas in the valley is far more than expected, so he had to stay and attract more Cloud Ninjas. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Kakashi to pass through the obstacles and approach the secret warehouse alone. In the other direction, Jishui also took the initiative to launch a surprise attack. Using the body flicker technique, in just a moment, he killed a team of 4 Cloud Ninjas, and then he pretended to attack the secret warehouse in the depths of the valley. Along the way, Jishui didn't entangle with the enemy too much and directly left a large number of Cloud Ninjas behind. But when he was about to approach the secret warehouse, a group of Cloud Ninjas intercepted him. With the fierce attack of Hyojin and Jishui, the entire valley was completely noisy. Explosions, roars, wails, and cries for help came one after another. Kakashi, who was hiding in the dark, silently watched all this. Now is not the time for him to attack. It didn't take long for Hyojin and Jishui to be forced to withdraw from the valley. However, the Cloud Ninjas obviously didn't intend to let them go. Almost at the same time, they sent out 2 groups of pursuers to chase after them. Guy lured away 8 people, Kuroto lured away 16 people, and Jishui lured away 12 people. Kakashi, who was hiding in the dark, silently counted the number of enemies that his teammates lured away while observing the changes of the Cloud Ninjas after the attack. All the enemies killed by his teammates and lured away were more than 50 people, close to 14 teams. No matter how you look at it, it's already a very good result. As for the number of enemies far exceeding expectations, it didn't make Kakashi feel afraid. On the contrary, this strengthened his determination to raid the secret warehouse. Because such a tight defense, it means that the materials stored here must be very important. It's time. After a soft breath, Kakashi folded his hands, Zi, Wu, Shun, Wu Mao, in order to make the hand seals. Chi, chi, chi. In an instant, a sharp and harsh bird cry sounded. Accompanied by the sound of 1,000 birds, Kakashi, who was bathed in lightning, rushed into the depths of the valley. Hyojin, who was retreating, heard the familiar sound of 1,000 birds and knew that Kakashi has launched the final raid. He looked back at the Cloud Ninjas behind him, a total of 16 people, for teams, at least 2 jonins. The number Chunin is unknown, but it will not be less than 4. I can't lead this group of people to the retreat point. I must get rid of them. After making up his mind, Hyojin stopped in an open space and slowly pulled out the Kusanagi from his waist. Pill. Chapter 63. Damn, you little devil. As his chest was completely cut open, blood splashed out. The voice of the Jonin became weaker and weaker, and finally, he fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Hyojin staggered a few steps, then sat on the ground and gasped heavily. At this time, the bodies of more than a dozen Cloud Ninjas were lying around him, and the surrounding area was in a mess, indicating that a fierce battle had just taken place here. After a little recovery, Hyojin looked down at his body and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Although there are many wounds on his body, but none of them are fatal. Only the penetrating wound on his left shoulder is slightly serious, but it doesn't prevent him from holding the sword with his right hand. Thanks to you, Hyojin murmured and put away the Kusanagi in his hand. Pill. This time, he was able to kill more than a dozen Cloud Ninjas at such a small cost. Kusanagi, pill, and paralysis toxin helped him a lot. Among them, a Jonin who led the team of Cloud Village didn't know about Kusanagi. He tried to use ordinary Kanai to resist Kusanagi infused with Tenseigan chakra. Pill. As a result, he was beheaded by Hyojin, greatly weakening the strength and morale of this group of Cloud Ninjas, which laid the foundation for Hyojin's final victory. After a simple bandage of the wound, Hyojin didn't dare to delay and immediately rushed to the retreat point. After all, this is the territory of the Land of Thunder. Every minute he stays here is 1 minute more danger. Not long after, Hyojin arrived at the retreat point agreed by Team 11 in advance. Shui and Guy, who arrived first, greeted him and said, "You are finally here. We were worried that something happened to you, but we didn't expect that you would be in trouble." Hyojin said, "It took a little bit of effort to deal with the enemy." Shui nodded. "Yes, I noticed it earlier. Senior, you lured away the most enemies." Hyojin glanced at Guy and Shui and asked casually, "How are things on your side?" Guy and Shui talked about their respective situations. All the ninjas on Guy's side were Chunin and Jinin, and there were only 8 of them, so after a fierce battle, he successfully dealt with all the Cloud ninjas who were chasing him. Among the 12 Cloud ninjas who chased after Shui, although one of them was a Jonin, that Jonin fell under Shui's Jinjutsu from the very beginning. By the time he undid the Jinjutsu, more than a dozen Chunin and Jinin teammates around him had already been killed by Shui, and without the cooperation of his teammates, he was obviously not an opponent of Shui in a one-on-one fight, so he quickly fell under Shui's blade. After listening to Kuroto's story, Kuroto frowned. "So, the 3 of us together have only dealt with a little more than 50 enemies?" More importantly, among the more than 50 Cloud ninjas, only 3 are Jonin. The vast majority of the rest are just cannon fodder to consume the enemy's chakra. Guy said worriedly, "Yes, that's why I'm very worried about Kakashi. How can he deal with so many enemies by himself?" Shui stood silently on the side. The current situation is very clear. With Kakashi's current strength, there is absolutely no chance of winning against more than 100 Cloud ninjas. Even if he is lucky enough to destroy the secret warehouse, there is absolutely no possibility of him getting out of here alive. Guy looked in the direction of the valley and said firmly, "I'm going back to help him." Shui opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. At present, the 3 members of Team 11 are all injured, and their chakra has also been consumed by more than half. Even if they retreat immediately, they may not be able to escape the pursuit of the Cloud ninjas and safely return to the territory of the Land of Fire. Not to mention, turning around and raiding the valley is almost equivalent to suicide. At this time, Hyojin also looked in the direction of the valley. His eyes were full of hesitation in the valley. Glancing at the burning secret warehouse beside him, Kakashi covered his shoulder with one hand. Half squatting in a pool of blood, his face showed a relieved smile. Finally completed the task. No more companions will die for me. Swish, at this time, more and more Cloud ninjas rushed over using the body flicker technique, standing densely around Kakashi, completely surrounding him. The leader of the Cloud ninjas said with a cold face, "My ninja, state your name." Although very annoyed, Kakashi's decisive surprise attack still made this elite Jonin feel admiration, so he wanted to ask for Kakashi's name before killing Kakashi. Kakashi raised his head and looked at him. But because of excessive blood loss, his vision is getting blurrier and blurrier. He can only vaguely feel the flickering flames and the shadows of the Cloud ninjas around him. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu, and the scene in front of him seemed familiar. It seems like I've seen it somewhere. Oh yes, it's the Battle of Kamisubi Bridge. At that time, I was also surrounded by so many people. Unfortunately, Sensei is no longer here. This time, no one will come to save me. Obsidian, Lin, we are finally going to meet. Oh, this kind of ending seems to be good. Kakashi felt that his strength was fading little by little, and his thoughts were drifting further and further, as if they were out of the shackles of his body. Seeing that Kakashi's mind has begun to fall into a trance, the leader of the Cloud ninjas shook his head and sighed, then made a beheading gesture to his subordinates around him. One of the Cloud ninjas immediately held his kunai and slowly walked towards Kakashi. However, after walking in front of Kakashi, the Cloud ninja didn't make a move for a long time. The leader of the Cloud ninjas impatiently urged, "What are you waiting for? Quickly get rid of him. We still have to chase after the other mine ninjas." Now that the secret warehouse has been destroyed, if he can't kill all the Konoha ninjas that invaded, then even if he is an elite Jonin with extremely high qualifications, he won't be able to escape Raikage's punishment. The Cloud Ninjas stared at the strangely shaped Sharingan in Kakashi's left eye socket and said, "But his eyes." At this moment, a figure flashed and instantly killed the Cloud Ninja, standing in front of Kakashi. Then two more figures fell beside Kakashi. Got rid of the grass. The blood on the pill. Hyojin, who was in front of Kakashi, said lightly, "Guy, you carry Kakashi and go first." Guy hesitated, but seeing that Kakashi's consciousness is blurred, he can't retreat alone. So he had to carry Kakashi on his back, and then said to Hyojin and Jishui, "I will come back as soon as I settle him down." Jishui smiled and shook her head. "No, you take him back to the village first, Senpai, and I can handle it here." Guy said, "But..." Chapter 64. After Kakashi fainted, Hyojin has essentially taken over the position of Team 11 captain, so Guy didn't dare to say anything and immediately carried the unconscious Kakashi towards the outside of the valley. Several squads were immediately separated from the Kumo ninjas and chased after them. At this time, the leader of the Kumo ninjas looked at Hyojin and Jishui and suddenly smiled. "What a group of excellent juniors." Hyojin said coldly, "Thank you for the compliment. My name is Fuji. I'm the commander of this garrison." After a pause, the Kumo elite Jonin named Fuji continued, "I admire you very much, but it's a pity that all of you will die here today, including the two who escaped." Hyojin didn't say anything, but glanced around with a gloomy expression. Excluding the squads that just chased after Guy, there are more than 100 Kumo ninjas surrounding him and Jishui, among which there are more than a dozen with Jonin chakra amount. Moreover, the signal of the secret warehouse being attacked has already been sent out by the Kumo ninjas. At this moment, Kumo's reinforcements are probably rushing over from all directions. Seeing that Hyojin and Jishui have fallen into such a desperate situation and still haven't given up hope, Fuji smiled and said, "Being able to kill such an excellent junior like Mai, presumably laying, Sama won't blame me for not defending well." Hyojin silently stared at Fuji, waiting for an opportunity. Now, with the steady improvement of his strength, the limit range of rain pull has been expanded to about 22 meters. If he doesn't hesitate to overdraft his chakra, he can further expand it to 25 meters. At the moment, Fuji is about 21 meters away from him, which is within the range of rain pull. But considering that Fuji is an elite Jonin of Kumo, his strength is definitely not weak, so 21 meters is not safe. It is best to get close to 15 meters to ensure absolute safety. Hyojin silently calculated the distance between himself and the enemy while taking out the poison bottle from his waist pouch. In the previous battle, the paralysis toxin on the pill has almost been consumed, so it needs to be reapplied to maintain the toxicity of the toxin on the blade. He was in too much of a hurry just now and forgot to do so. He had no choice but to poison his sword in front of his enemies. Seeing Hyojin applying poison on the dagger in front of them, the expressions of the Kumo ninjas changed. Fuji frowned slightly and thought, "Why hasn't Kurappa arrived yet?" The reason why the Kumo ninjas are not in a hurry is because they are waiting for Kurappa to arrive. In Fuji's eyes, Hyojin and others are already dead. It's just that before they die, he wants to make good use of them. At least he wants to extract some information about Mai. The Kumo village has not yet developed a secret technique that can invade the brain of a corpse to obtain information, so they have to wait for Kurappa to arrive. At that time, even if Hyojin and Jishui are seriously injured and on the verge of death, Kurappa will be there to interrogate them on the spot. The abnormality of the Kumo ninjas was immediately noticed by Jishui, who whispered in Hyojin's ear, "Kuroto senpai, something seems to be wrong. They seem to be waiting for something." Naturally, Suijin also noticed this and knew that he couldn't hesitate any longer, so he said, "As soon as we start, immediately activate Susanoo." Jishui didn't ask why, and just nodded seriously. After instructing Jishui, Hyojin slowly walked towards Fuji. Fuji's face turned cold, and immediately said to the other Kumo ninjas, "Don't wait, do it." His voice hasn't fallen yet, but Fuji suddenly felt a huge and indescribable force pulling him toward Hyojin. Not only him, but everyone within 21 meters of Hyojin. Even Jishuei was no exception. All of them were pulled towards Hyojin by this huge force. At this time, holding Kusanagi, Hyojin shouted, "Revolving Heaven Blade! Revolving Heaven Blade!" Is Hyojin's Revolving Heaven Blade? It's a crooked trick that he came up with. In his imagination, he can use rain pull to attract all the enemies around him, and then hold Kusanagi. Manjikyu forcefully used 8 trigram's palm, Revolving Heaven. With Kusanagi, Manjikyu's blade is for attack, and Revolving Heaven is for defense, in order to achieve the effect of both offense and defense. It's just that he didn't have time to practice this idea in private. He came here on a secret mission, so now he can only try to survive in the face of death. The huge traction of rain pull attracted more than a dozen ninjas, including Fuji and Jishuei, to Hyojin's side. Not to mention a group of Kumo ninjas. Even Jishuei was shocked. Although Jishuei has seen Hyojin use rain pull, it's the first time he experienced it. But fortunately, Hyojin has already told him before, so he didn't panic. He opened his Manjikyu Sharingan in time and used his Snu. Whoosh, the sound of the blade breaking through the wind sounded at the right time. All the ninjas who were attracted to Hyojin by rain pull were hit by Kusanagi, except for Jishuei, who has the protection of Susanoo. Everyone else was hit by Kusanagi. Maru's attack hit. After stopping the Revolving Heaven Blade, Hyojin gasped for breath while looking at the result of the battle. Using rain pull in a large area and at high intensity consumed his chakra. So he must make sure that Fuji, the Kumo commander, was hit by Kusanagi. Maru hit. But at this time, he hit Kusanagi. Among the group of cloud ninjas who were injured by Maru, except for the Chunin and Jinin, all the Jonin ninjas turned into lightning and dissipated with a bang. Lightning clone. Hyojin was shocked. Even a pupillary ninja may not be able to see through the high-level shadow clone jutsu. In Hyojin's impression, Kakashi used lightning clone to successfully deceive Pain, who has the Rinnegan. But this kind of thing fell on his head, and in such a desperate situation, the feeling is not very good. In fact, Hyojin is not completely unaware of it. His Tenseigan faintly noticed that Fuji looked a little uncoordinated, but he has never seen a lightning clone, so he didn't judge that all the Kumo ninjas in front of him, including Fuji, are actually just lightning clones. At this time, Fuji and other Kumo ninjas who lost their lightning clones came out of the shadows. Chapter 65. Hyojin stared at Fuji, who walked out of the shadows with a solemn expression, because it was the first time he used Revolving Heaven Blade just now, in order to ensure the smoothness of the 8 trigram palm, and in order to balance the imbalance of holding a sword in one hand and a palm in the other. Hyojin consumed a lot of chakra, coupled with the consumption of a large amount of chakra from rain pull. At this moment, the chakra in his body is less than 10%. If he can use this as the price to severely injure Fuji and the other Jonin ninjas in one fell swoop, the consumption of chakra is not a loss. After all, without Fuji and the other Jonin suppression, whether it is fighting or running away, Hyojin can have a little more confidence. But now that the sneak attack failed, Hyojin and Jishuei's situation is not very good. Glancing at Jishuei from the corner of his eye, Hyojin's face became even gloomier. Jishuei, who is in the Susanoo, is a little out of breath at this moment, and even his forehead is covered with sweat. Obviously, the previous series of fierce battles consumed a lot of chakra, coupled with the Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil technique. It is a huge burden for him who is still young and has not yet fully developed. At this time, Fuji shouted, "Do it!" Following Fuji's order, the surrounding cloud ninjas immediately launched an attack. Hurriedly, Suijin shot a few shurikens and executed more than a dozen Kumo Chunin and Jinin who were injured by the Revolving Heaven Blade and couldn't move due to the paralysis toxin, and then leaped back into the Susanoo of Shursui. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Hyojin retreated into Jishuei's Susanoo, the attack of the cloud ninjas immediately followed, and a series of violent explosions immediately sounded outside the Susanoo. After the smoke dissipated, the figure of the Susanoo was still standing straight, and Jishui and Hyojin were unharmed. Seeing this scene, Fuji, who had retreated far away, was shocked. Susanoo of the Uchiha clan hasn't appeared in the shinobi world for a long time, so Fuji doesn't know what this Susanoo in front of him means. But this didn't stop him from making a judgment based on his experience. In his view, both the rain will pull used by Hyojin and the Susi used by Jishui are very strange and powerful ninjutsu, which is not something that can be mastered by ordinary ninjas. Therefore, although both Hyojin and Jishui were dressed in my umbu attire and wore masks, Kuroto was still able to guess the identities of Hyojin and Jishui, my Kekkei Genkai. Moreover, the body of every Kekkei Genkai is a treasure trove of intelligence. Therefore, Fuji was even more eager to capture Hyojin and Jishui. Trap them. Continue attacking. Don't stop. Fuji quietly retreated as he ordered loudly. Earth release. Earth cage prison. Earth release. Earth wall connection. Fire release. Great explosion technique. Wind release. Tornado. Following Fuji's order, the 4 Kyumo Jonin immediately jumped to the 4 sides of the Susanoo and simultaneously launched their ninjutsu. In an instant, earth walls rose from the ground, trapping the huge Susanoo in place. The combination of fire release and wind release rolled up flames all over the sky, like a sea of fire rushing towards the Susanoo. At the same time, Jishui gritted her teeth and used the secret technique of Susanoo. Susanoo 99. The emerald green Susanoo opened its chest plate, revealing a dense fire-like ball of chakra shaped like a magatama. Immediately afterward, countless emerald green chakra arrows flew out. Hyojin, who was hiding in the Susanoo, didn't stay idle either. In one breath, he threw dozens of kunai, shurikens, and other throwing tools. Boom! 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 The violent explosion caused the whole earth to tremble. Both sides launched their attacks almost at the same time. Countless ninjutsu, throwing tools, detonating talismans, and chakra arrows were thrown back and forth in the valley, illuminating the night as if it was daytime. As the smoke gradually dissipated, the scene of the battlefield was revealed. He saw that the earth wall and the earth prison that the Kyumo ninjas had just built were now damaged, and the dozen or so Kyumo ninjas who were in front of Jishui's Susanoo suffered heavy casualties. Most of them were dead. But Hyojin and Jishui, who were in the center of the battlefield, were still unscathed. It's just that Jishui was kneeling on the ground at this time, coughing violently with her hands on the ground. It seemed that it was difficult for her to continue. Fuji, who was hiding in the distance, carefully observed Jishui's Susanoo while thinking to himself, such a terrifying ninjutsu. The consumption must be quite high. It seems that this kid can't hold on much longer. From the attack of the Kyumo ninjas just now, Susanoo has proved its unparalleled defense. If an ordinary ninja encountered such a strong enemy, then I'm afraid that they would have long been scared out of their wits. But Fuji is different. First of all, he is a powerful elite jonin, and it's not like he doesn't have a trump card. Second, this is the territory of the Land of Lightning, and reinforcements are coming from all directions. No matter how strong the enemy is, it's impossible for one person to fight against a whole country. One must know that the 3 generations of Kyumo shinobi died under the siege of tens of thousands of rock shinobi. Even the 3 generations of Lei and shinobi couldn't defeat a whole country of ninjas, let alone 2 Mai shinobi in their early teens. Attacks from any direction seem to be unable to break the green chakra shadow. How can I crack this ninjutsu? Fuji suddenly had an idea. If I bypass the top and launch an attack from the ground, would it be effective? Fuji quickly made a very complicated handprint, then slowly pressed his hand on the ground. Susanoo. After coughing violently for a while, Jishui said weakly, Kuroto-san, you should leave quickly. I can't hold on any longer. Hyojin also said while gasping for breath. it's not the time to despair yet. Although he is in a desperate situation, Hyojin is not completely helpless. The body regeneration secret technique obtained from Orochimaru is his last trump card this time. As long as he doesn't hesitate to overdraft his life, he can immediately recover from his injuries and replenish a certain amount of chakra. At that time, he will be able to control the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets and use magnetic release and iron sandwings to break out of the encirclement. As for the matter of exposing the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets, he can no longer care so much. If he loses his life, what's the use of keeping the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets? Just as Hyojin put his hand into the ninja bag around his waist, he suddenly felt a slight tremor on the ground under his feet. Chapter 66. Suddenly attacked by the lightning snake, Suijin and Homusubi, who were already exhausted and covered in wounds, let out a series of screams. In an instant, the Susanoo over their heads became transparent and then dissipated little by little. Finally solved, you 2 little devils. Seeing that his attack was successful, Fuji, who was hiding in the distance, couldn't help but laugh. Whoosh at this time, a few more figures landed in the valley. All of them were cloud ninjas who came from the surrounding areas to support them. Seeing that the valley was in a mess, the bodies of the cloud ninjas were scattered all over the ground, and the secret warehouse, which was the core facility, was also submerged in the raging fire. These cloud ninjas who came to support were all shocked. Kurappa, who was leading the team, directly questioned Fuji, who was responsible for guarding the secret warehouse. Fuji, what are you doing? Why didn't you protect the secret warehouse? Fuji said helplessly, we were attacked by Mai's elite troops. Elite troops? Kurappa curled his lips, then pointed to Hyojin and Jishui, who were paralyzed by the lightning release ninjutsu, and said, just these 2 little devils of Mai, and you dare say that they are the elite troops of Mai. Fuji coldly snorted. Little devils? Humph, you take a good look around yourself. These few little devils of Mai killed more than 100 of our people. Kurappa quickly looked around carefully and found that all the bodies lying on the ground were the bodies of cloud ninjas. In the entire valley, except for Hyojin and Jishui, there was no one else of my ninjas. Realizing that Hyojin and Jishui are not simple, Kurappa immediately made a request. I want to interrogate them now. Fuji shrugged. Whatever. 2 of Mai's brats have escaped. I'm going to chase after them now. Hyojin, who has been hit by the lightning release ninjutsu, couldn't even muster the slightest bit of strength at this time. Seeing that more and more cloud ninjas have arrived, the number of cloud ninjas surrounding them has already exceeded 200. His heart sank. Hyojin's heart was dead as he stared at Kurappa, who was walking towards him step by step. Suddenly, he felt an inexplicably familiar power in the unseen world. This power that seemed to be hidden in the void seemed to be far away, yet also seemed to be right in front of him. What surprised him was that this power was not only enormous, but also very familiar. Yes, it was a sense of intimacy. This power that seemed to be within reach once again evoked Hyojin's desire to live. With the thought of survival in the face of death, he reluctantly raised his hand. Kurappa, who was walking towards Hyojin, couldn't help but sneer. Don't struggle. After I get what I want, I will let you die without pain. Jishui on the side looked straight at Hyojin. He knew that Hyojin would never do something meaningless, and he was ready to sacrifice one of his Manjikyu Sharingan to use Kotoemet Tsukumi to control Kurappa. With his current chakra, he is no longer able to use Kotoemet Tsukumi normally. If he wants to forcibly use Kotoemet Tsukumi, he can only completely sacrifice one of his Manjikyu Sharingan. But this is undoubtedly worth it. As long as he secretly controls Kurappa, he and Hyojin still have a chance to escape. At this time, Hyojin finally raised his hand and grabbed towards the air. Kurappa curled up the corner of his mouth. Is your consciousness blurred? That's good. It's more convenient for me to interrogate. Before Kurappa could finish his words, Kurappa was stunned. Not only Karappa, but the surrounding cloud ninjas, even Fuji, who was preparing to chase after Guy, and Kakashi, and Jishuei, who was preparing to use Kotoa Mitsukami, were also stunned. In their eyes, Hyojin just grabbed the air, and suddenly a huge chakra reaction broke out from his body. This chakra reaction was so great that even Karappa and Fuji, who had seen the chakra of the tailed beast before, were shocked to the point that their minds shook. Hyojin felt that the injuries and numbness in his body disappeared in an instant and was replaced by endless power. What the hell is going on? The shock in his heart was no less than the others. Although this surging power was very familiar, he can be sure that this is not the power of his own Tenseigan. Vaguely, he felt that this huge chakra seemed to contain some information. It's a Madra. Although he doesn't know what kind of jutsu hand seals are contained in this message, but he still made the hand seals one by one according to the information in this message. After finishing the Madra, Hyojin's body was suddenly wrapped in a soft light blue chakra, and his whole body slowly floated in the air. Immediately afterward, a black truth-seeking ball flashed out from between his eyebrows and floated around him. Turn, Tenseigan chakra mode. The Madra just now turned out to be the Tenseigan chakra mode. At this moment, Kuroto guessed the source of this chakra from the void, but he hasn't figured out why it's like this for the time being. But now is obviously not the time to worry about these things. He suppressed all the complicated thoughts in his mind. There's only one thought left in his mind. That is, he must kill all the cloud ninjas to ensure that the Tenseigan is not exposed. After making up his mind, he pointed to Jishuei with one hand and pulled Jishuei on the ground into the air, and the other hand slowly raised and aimed at the whole valley. As he slowly raised his hand, the 9 truth-seeking balls floating around him immediately merged into one in his palm, and then a cold voice came out of his mouth. Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. On the moon. In the Otsutsuki Memorial Hall, a white-haired, senile old man suddenly opened his cloudy white eyes and exclaimed, "Who is using the power of the Tenseigan?" The old man didn't hesitate and immediately rushed to the lookout where the Tenseigan was worshipped. At the same time, the other 2 old men also rushed to the lookout, and the 3 met in front of the huge Tenseigan. How could this be? Is the Tenseigan delivering chakra to... Only the 3 of us can control the Tenseigan. The oldest old man in the shrine said at this time. No matter what, first seal the Tenseigan and cut off its output of chakra. The other 2 old men nodded at the same time. So, the 3 of them printed at the same time, and then said in a low voice, "Seal." Chapter 67. Rumble. The huge storm created by the truth-seeking ball swept the entire valley in an instant. In such a violent storm, whether it was a strong jonin like Fuji or a group of ordinary genin, all of them were like rootless duckweed. They were as small as ants. Not only the cloud ninjas, but countless trees in the valley were uprooted. Boulders were blown away. Houses and sentry posts disintegrated into countless debris the moment they came into contact with the storm. Crackle! Everything turned into debris in the storm and collided with each other, making all kinds of sounds. The entire valley was like a painting on a drawing paper, erased by the eraser called Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, leaving only a desolate blank. Not enough. Not enough. At this point, Hyojin still has no intention of stopping, although the entire valley was almost razed to the ground by him. In the vision of his Tenseigan, there are still many chakra traces in the valley, which shows that there are still many cloud survivors in the valley. These survivors must not be left alive. Once they are let go, Cloud Village will spy on the secret of the Tenseigan. Cloud Village has a lot of dark history. They have kidnapped Kushina and Hinata. In order to master the secrets of other villages, they will use all means. Jishuei, who was controlled in the air by the traction force, was stunned at this moment. It has been several minutes, but the expression on his face has not changed. Is this the true strength of Kuroto-san? Jishuei, who hides his pride in the depths of his heart, for the first time saw a powerful force that even a man GQ Sharingan can't resist. He was shocked and had mixed feelings in his heart. His pride was truly torn to shreds this time. Hyojin didn't notice the change in Jishue's mentality. At this time, he was driving the silver wheel reincarnation explosion with all his strength, killing all the cloud ninjas as far as his eyes could see. Suddenly, the endless chakra source was cut off. Hyojin's body seemed to have been hollowed out in an instant. The process was so sudden that he was caught off guard. In fact, he has long guessed that this chakra came from the giant Tenseigan on the moon. Only Chakra, who is also a Tenseigan, can make him feel so close. It was also because he had guessed that the source of chakra was on the moon that he did his best to vent the silver wheel reincarnation explosion. Because he knows that the last descendants of Otsutsuki Himura on the moon will not allow him to use the power of the giant Tenseigan unscrupulously. So this opportunity is likely to be his only. If he missed it, he could only look at the moon and sigh. But the reaction of the Otsutsuki Himura's descendants on the moon was still far beyond his expectations. From the time his Tenseigan resonated with the giant Tenseigan on the moon to the time the resonance was cut off, the whole process only took a few minutes. I can't stop now. Faced with the current situation, Hyojin quickly came to a realization. Before killing all the cloud ninjas, he can't release the Tenseigan chakra mode. Even if he overdraws some of his vitality, he must grit his teeth and persist. And according to his estimation, in less than a few seconds, the silver wheel reincarnation explosion will not only raise the entire valley, but it will also plow 3 feet of land. At that time, not to mention people, even the ants hiding under the ground will not be able to escape death. But without the support of the giant Tenseigan on the moon, Hyojin, who had exhausted his chakra, immediately felt an overwhelming sense of fatigue, as if the whole world was shaking. 7, 6, 5, 4. His eyelids were so heavy that he could hardly open them, trying to sense the remaining chakra reaction in the valley. 3, 2, the last one. With the disappearance of the last chakra reaction, confirming that there are no living people in the entire valley, Hyojin couldn't hold on any longer. While vomiting blood, he fell to the ground with Jishue. Before he could take the initiative to release the Tenseigan chakra mode, his Tenseigan chakra mode disappeared by itself. At the same time, the Tenseigan in his eye socket also degenerated from the Tenseigan to the Byakugan, just like Otsutsuki Samurai, who exhausted his chakra after the battle with Naruto. Noticing Hyojin's abnormality, Jishue quickly came over to support him and asked, "Senpai, how are you? Go, let's go." Jishue nodded, carried Hyojin on his back, and fled in the direction of the moon country. Not long after Hyojin and Jishue escaped, a group of cloud ninjas rushed to the valley from all directions. Of course, this place is no longer suitable to be called a valley, because it's all flat, as if a giant plowed it with a shovel. Are we in the right place? Didn't they say that there is a valley here? Where is everyone? Where is the secret warehouse? What happened here just now? The cloud ninjas were stunned and didn't know what to do. At this time, a Jonin stood up and shouted loudly, "Bastard, what are you doing? Hurry up and find the survivors. I want to know what happened here." The Kumo ninjas reacted and immediately scattered in all directions, looking for survivors in the messy, muddy ground. However, no matter how hard they searched, all they found were incomplete corpses. Moreover, without exception, they were all corpses wearing the clothes of Hidden Cloud sect. What? Not a single enemy's body was found. After receiving the report, the Jonin was a little panicked. He pointed to the rows of broken corpses in front of him and said with a trembling voice, Are these corpses all our own people? On the moon, after cutting off the giant Tenseigan's supply of chakra to the outside, the remaining 3 Otsutsuki elders were suspicious. The oldest great elder said in a hoarse and weak voice, "This time the Tenseigan's movement is too strange. I suspect that it has something to do with the person who stole the demon statue." The second elder, who is also very old, is shocked and angry. "He dares to take away our treasure, the Tenseigan?" The third elder is relatively calm and said lightly, "It's better to use the Tenseigan to sense it. The movement just now is a bit unusual. Maybe something happened on Earth." The great elder nodded, immediately made a hand seal, and shouted, "Open!" The dim giant Tenseigan once again bloomed with a brilliant light. This light is like a light curtain cast to the earth far away. On Earth, Haijin, who was being carried by Jishui and was fleeing to the moon country, suddenly felt the familiar chakra swept over him. Chapter 68. In the country of hot water. In a narrow cave, the unconscious guy and Kakashi were lying side by side on the ground. Haijin was sitting alone on the side, and only Jishui was busy by the campfire. Stirring the small pot on the campfire, Jishui whispered, "Senpai, the soup will be ready soon." Haijin nodded. He was a little hungry at this moment. Although he still had a lot of military food pills left, the taste was too hard to chew, so if he had a choice, he would naturally prefer to eat the delicious fish soup. After a while, Jishui handed a bowl of steaming fish soup to Haijin. After receiving the fish soup, Haijin drank the soup while looking at the unconscious guy and Kakashi. It's funny, obviously it was Kuroto and Shursui who were responsible for bringing up the rear, but after Team 11 gathered at the retreat point of the Land of Hot Water, the ones who suffered the most serious injuries were Guy and Kakashi, who retreated first. Guy was surrounded and intercepted by the Cloud Ninjas, so he had to use the forbidden technique 8 Inner Hidden Gates. 8 Inner Hidden Gates is a forbidden technique that can injure the enemy 1,000 times, but also damage oneself 800 times. So although Guy successfully repelled the enemy, his body was overdrawn and fell into a coma. Kakashi's situation is a bit complicated. It seems that in addition to his injuries and excessive blood loss, there are other reasons for his coma. As for what the specific reason is, Haijin can't figure out for a while. Of course, Haijin doesn't have too much energy to explore this right now. He hasn't solved his own troubles yet. Kacha! Haijin suddenly frowned. The soup bowl in his hand fell to the ground and broke into 2 halves. Jishui quickly asked, "Senpai, what's wrong?" Haijin shook his head calmly. "Nothing." After brushing off Jishui, he turned his head and looked out of the cave. The night sky outside the cave was very enchanting. Bright stars sprinkled the night sky like diamonds. The moonlight was bright and gentle. It was as beautiful as a dream. Looking at the beautiful scenery, Haijin sighed to himself, sigh. In the end, they were alarmed. Just now, another hidden Tenseigan chakra swept past. If it weren't for Haijin's familiarity with this Tenseigan chakra, he wouldn't have noticed it. Jishui, who was beside him, did not react at all. She knew nothing about it. From this, it can be seen that the detection of the giant Tenseigan chakra on the moon is very clever and secretive. Unless someone is familiar with the Tenseigan chakra, otherwise, even if they have the man GQ, Sharingan's pupil power, they won't be able to detect it. Come to think of it, this is the 7th time in the past few days. Why haven't they given up? Isn't it just some chakra? Is there a need to be so persistent? Haijin was a little annoyed, but he knew that the remaining Otsutsuki descendants on the moon are all radical separatists. These Otsutsuki descendants misunderstood Otsutsuki Himura's thoughts and thought that the shinobi world created by the Sage of Six Paths was a failure. So, they wanted to destroy the shinobi world and reopen the world. So, once these people know about him, Haijin feels that the consequences will be very unpredictable. Moreover, Kuroto, who has borrowed the giant Tenseigan chakra, knows better than anyone how powerful the giant Tenseigan on the moon is. It can be said that it is a true artifact, a supreme treasure belonging to the Otsutsuki Himura. The Otsutsuki descendants can freely control the giant Tenseigan, but Haijin can only barely resonate with the giant Tenseigan when his life is in danger. From this, it can be seen that in terms of the authority to use the giant Tenseigan, the Otsutsuki descendants on the moon are far superior to Haijin. Once the two sides fight, Haijin will have to face a giant Tenseigan that is superior to him in both quality and quantity. The result is self-evident. At this time, he is even a little glad. Fortunately, because of the exhaustion of chakra, his Tenseigan temporarily degenerated into a Byakugan and fell into a temporary dormant state. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have the ability to avoid the waves of exploration of the giant Tenseigan on the moon. On the moon. Cough, cough. After coughing for a while, the great elder put away his hands and slowly shook his head. When the second elder saw this, his brows almost squeezed together. Still not found? The old great elder calmed down his cough and said slowly, "Well, there's no other change on the ground except for the 9 forbidden places. In fact, the Otsutsuki descendants on the moon have long planned to destroy the shinobi world. It's just that through the exploration of the giant Tenseigan, they found that there seem to be many hidden places in the shinobi world that even they don't know about. These places are collectively called forbidden places by them. Some of these forbidden places are protected by wonderful natural energy, some are covered by strange foreign energy, and some are contaminated with evil, mysterious power. Because of this, the Otsutsuki descendants on the moon have not taken action yet. Now, there are only a few Otsutsuki descendants left on the moon. Except for the 3 elders who are already old, there's only a 3-year-old child named Saratobi. Such power is obviously not enough to wipe out the entire shinobi world. So no matter how radical they are, they have to temporarily endure and wait for a suitable opportunity, or wait for Saratobi to grow up. At this time, the 3rd elder asked, "What about the Outer Path demon statue? Do you have any clues?" The reason why the 3rd elder asked this is because a few years ago, they briefly sensed the Outer Path demon statue, but soon the feeling disappeared, so they couldn't lock the exact location. The great elder shook his head again. The 2nd elder, who is the most radical, stood up from the futon and asked, "Are we just going to watch and do nothing?" The great elder said lightly, "We are all old, and we don't have enough power to fulfill the last wish of our ancestors. This important task should be handed over to Saratobi. He is the most talented child in our clan. If it is him, he will definitely be able to fulfill the last wish of our ancestors." The 3rd elder tentatively suggested, "Maybe we can contact the Hyuga Hyuga. After all, they have the same bloodline as us." The great elder coldly snorted, "No, they are all fallen. They are not worthy of the bloodline of Otsutsuki. They are only worthy of being destroyed together with the failed world created by the Sage of 6 Paths." The 3rd patriarch wanted to say that if everything was exterminated, then the Otsutsuki clan, which only had a few people left on the moon, would not be able to escape the fate of extinction. However, looking at the 1st patriarch's determined expression, he opened his mouth but could not say anything. Chapter 69. At the border of the land of earth and the land of grass. 3 generations, Inoki looked at the information in his hand and said, "So, the commander of my shinobi army that is confronting us is Danzo?" Yellow Soil, who was standing on the side, replied, "Well, according to the information collected by the intelligence team, the commander of my shinobi army is Danzo. The sudden gathering of the rock village forced my shinobi army to make corresponding arrangements. Among the 3 members of the my shinobi advisor group, Danzo was assigned by 3 generations Naruto to the rock village. Zhuan Shaochun personally went to the Sand Crypsis to discuss the alliance, and Mito Kimen Hamura was responsible for the eastern coastline of the Land of Fire to guard against the Mist Village's surprise attack. These pieces of information are difficult to conceal, so the Rock Village's intelligence department intercepted them immediately. After pondering for a moment, 3 generations Tsuchikage-sama asked again, "What about 3 generations Naruto?" Yellow Soil shook his head. "There is no accurate information yet, but it is said that he is still in my village." Rijan is really patient. 3 generations Tsuchikage-sama smiled, then seemed to remember something and asked, "By the way, did you find my shinobi who killed Iwamoto?" Iwamoto, as the captain of one of the few remaining beheading units of the Rock Village, was one of the few elite jonin in the Rock Village. His death naturally made Tsuchikage-sama very sad and angry. According to the information sent by the spy in the land of demons, it was my Team 11 who killed Iwamoto. 3 generations, Tsuchikage-sama frowned. My no matter which village, the identity of the is a secret, so it is not easy to find out the specific information of Konoha Team 11, even if it is one of the 5 great shinobi villages of Rock Village. Did this Team 11 appear on the battlefield? Yellow Soil seemed to have collected the relevant information and replied, no. The battle between Mai and Cloud Village attracted the attention of almost all the villages in the shinobi world, and among them, Rock Village is undoubtedly the most concerned one. Therefore, at the beginning of the battle, Rock Village sent a large number of ninjas who are good at earth release techniques to infiltrate the Land of Fire, and, as independent observers, they obtained a lot of first-hand information on the battlefield. From the information, Mai undoubtedly suffered a big loss this time. Several lines of defense placed in the front were all easily broken by Cloud Village. Whether it was the loss of materials or the loss of personnel, it was shocking. There was even a rumor that the Fire Nation's daimyo was furious. Tsuchikage smiled and said, if Kyomo continues to attack fiercely, it won't take more than a few weeks for them to reach Konoha's village. 3 generations, Tsuchikage-sama was very happy to see his old opponent in such a difficult situation. More importantly, this battle completely removed the tiger skin on Mai's body, making it clear to everyone that Mai is no longer the invincible existence that can suppress the entire shinobi world. Yellow Soil was not as optimistic as 3 generations Tsuchikage-sama. He shook his head and said, after Jiraiya arrived, Mai's situation on the battlefield was much better and Cloud Village's offensive has been temporarily contained. So far, no one knows why Jiraiya arrived on the battlefield a full week later than expected, but in any case, his arrival successfully contained Cloud Village's offensive. After thinking for a while, Tsuchikage said, Konoha's reaction this time is a bit strange. It is obvious that the combat power on the battlefield is insufficient, but the Uchiha police force is nowhere to be seen on the battlefield, and the Team 11 is also nowhere to be seen. There must be a problem here. Send someone to investigate. I want to know why. Yes, I will arrange it right away. Land of Fire, Cloud Village Camp. After receiving the news from the rear, the 2 Jinchuriki and Cloud Ninja looked at each other in blank dismay. The content of the message was not much, only 4 words. Halt the attack. Chillabai scratched his head and asked the few people around him, why did the village send such an order? Cloud Ninja, Ida, shook his head and said, this doesn't make sense at all. We have already destroyed Mai's front line of defense. If we stop the attack at this time, then our previous efforts will be in vain. Yujito Ni said, did something happen in the village? Chillabai and Ida immediately agreed with Yujito Ni's speculation, because this is the only reason why Lei Ying, who has always been tough, would send such an absurd order to the front line. My shinobi camp, Cloud Ninja Camp. Shikaka walked into the command center and said to the people inside, the Cloud Village on the opposite side seems to have stopped attacking. Hugaricha, who was standing on the side, immediately frowned and said, they obviously have the upper hand. Why did they suddenly stop attacking? Jiraiya, who knows more, said at this time, maybe the old man's strategy worked. After saying that, he briefly mentioned the matter of 3 generations Naruto's arrangement of the to raid the border warehouse of the Land of Lightning. When everyone heard this, they all sighed. This kind of mission of sneaking into the enemy's territory and raiding important facilities is extremely dangerous, even if the target is a small shinobi village other than the 5 great shinobi villages. Not to mention that the target this time is Cloud Village, whose strength is not inferior to Mai. So in everyone's opinion, even if the mission is completed, the who carried out the mission will probably die. Land of Hot Water. Hyojin, who was alone by the lake, took off the black goggles on his head. The clear lake water reflected his pure white eyes in his eye sockets. Kuroto observed the surface of the lake and found that it was indeed a Byakugan, exactly the same as his own Byakugan before injecting the genetic serum. After confirming again and again, Kuroda slowly closed his eyes, infused the chakra into his eyes, and then suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, his eyes flashed with a sapphire blue light, as if there were stars in his eyes. The world in his field of vision became much clearer. Even the lines on the trunks of the trees in the distance were clearly visible. Oh, so it can be done like this. Hyojin chuckled and breathed a sigh of relief. This encounter has been a blessing in disguise for Kuroda to figure out how to activate and deactivate the Tenseigan. After several attempts and the final confirmation just now, Kuroda discovered that the Tenseigan can be temporarily deactivated, just like how the Uchiha clan could deactivate the Sharingan. And he was surprised to find that once the Tenseigan is closed, the caged bird on his head will work again. Chapter 70. Because he can freely activate and deactivate the Tenseigan, he naturally doesn't need to wear the black goggles anymore. After all, wearing them has a great impact on one's field of vision, especially at night. The black goggles will seriously interfere with Hyojin's vision, reducing his insight. After putting the black goggles into the ninja bag around his waist, Hyojin got up and returned to the small cave where Team 11 was hiding. As soon as he saw Hyojin, Guy, who was exercising outside the cave, smiled and said, "Hee hee, you look strange without the goggles." Hyojin looked at Guy from head to toe and asked, "Are you all right?" Guy immediately gave Hyojin a thumbs up and at the same time revealed a row of big teeth and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm Ai's dark blue beast. Such a small injury, I don't care about it at all." Guy's physical resilience is really extraordinary. If an ordinary person exercises at this intensity, their body may not be able to withstand it for a long time, but he exercises every day as if nothing happened. This time, his injury is not light, but after a few days of rest, he can jump again. After entering the cave, Hyojin found Jishui and Kakashi chatting in a low voice. Hyojin asked casually, "What are you talking about?" Jishui glanced at Kakashi, and seeing Kakashi nodding, she said to Hyojin in a strange tone, "Kakashi-senpai awakened the Man-GQ Sharingan." Hyojin looked at Kakashi and asked, "Did he awaken it after the battle in the valley?" Kakashi, who is still a little weak, shook his head and said, "I don't know." Hyojin is not surprised that Kakashi awakened the Man-GQ Sharingan, because in his impression, it seems to be a natural thing. Now, Hyojin can't remember when Obsidian awakened the Man-GQ Sharingan, but he knows that as long as Obsidian awakens the Man-GQ Sharingan, then considering the resonance of the two Sharingan, as long as Kakashi is slightly stimulated, it is possible for him to awaken the Man-GQ Sharingan at any time. What's more, Kakashi has received a lot of stimulation. Putting aside the decisive battle in the valley, just the death of Lin and the Yondaime was enough to deal an indescribable mental blow to him. Therefore, Kakashi's Man-GQ Sharingan may have already awakened before, and the battle in the valley just accidentally let him master the method of awakening it. Seeing that Kakashi is still in a half-dead state, Hyojin didn't ask much. He doesn't want to show that he is very interested in the Man-GQ Sharingan, or that he is very familiar with it, because that will attract a lot of unnecessary trouble and suspicion. After all, the only people who are interested in the Man-GQ Sharingan right now are Danzo in the village and Orochimaru outside the village. And Obsidian, who is hiding behind the scenes, is also thinking about destroying the Uchiha clan and Mai. None of these people are easy to deal with. If they target him, although Hyojin is not afraid of them, it will still be troublesome. Jishui didn't say anything more. In fact, Jishui is still a little confused at the moment. He never thought that a non-Uchiha clansman with a Sharingan transplant can actually awaken the Man-GQ Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. In his opinion, this is simply the biggest and strongest ridicule to the proud Uchiha clan. Countless Uchiha clansmen who are touted as geniuses have not been able to awaken the Man-GQ Sharingan. Even now, in Jishui's knowledge, he is the only one in the entire Uchiha clan who has awakened the Man-GQ Sharingan. He is even worried because he has awakened the Man-GQ Sharingan, fearing that this too powerful power will bring bad luck to the clan and the village. He carefully guards this power that represents the pride of the Uchiha clan, but a person who is not Uchiha clansman has inexplicably obtained all this. This feeling of being ridiculed is particularly strong for him. Fortunately, Jishui's pride has just been torn to pieces by Hyojin not long ago, and in his heart, the proud Uchiha clan has been completely defeated in the hands of the Hyuga clan. Because no matter from what aspect, the power of the Manjikyu Sharingan can't be compared with the Tenseigan chakra mode that can erase a valley in the blink of an eye. So in his heart, Uchiha Sharingan has been completely defeated. After being defeated once, being defeated for the second time seems to be a little easier to accept. At least Kakashi is the son of my white Fang who has killed so many shinobi villages that the other shinobi villages are terrified of. Neither Hyojin nor Kakashi are aware of Jishui's complex psychological activities. Kakashi is still immersed in his own mental world. His heart is far from being as cold as he appears on the outside, and the indifference on his face is often just to cover up his wounded heart. Hyojin, on the other hand, pondered over what happened in the past few days. The battle in the valley can be described as a narrow escape from death. This battle made him understand a truth. Even if you have a trump card in your hand, you must be cautious, otherwise you may lose your life inexplicably before you can even use your trump card. This is the case this time. Although he has the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets in his hand, and he can break out of the encirclement by using magnetic release at any time, but a moment of negligence almost caused him to be captured alive by the Kyumo ninjas before he could even use the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets. It must be clear that this is the shinobi world, a place where even Madara of the Jubi's Jinchuriki can be killed in seconds. Of course, Hyojin also gained a lot from this battle. The biggest harvest is undoubtedly the technique to enter the Tenseigan chakra mode from the giant Tenseigan on the moon, as well as the method to use the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion and Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion from the Tenseigan on the moon. The moment he entered the Tenseigan chakra mode, he even felt that he was a god, and all the enemies could be easily crushed by him as long as he raised his hand. This kind of feeling made him incomparably carefree. It's a pity that the Otsutsuki last descendants on the moon reacted too quickly, so he did not have more opportunities to use the free chakra of the giant Tenseigan to familiarize himself with the Tenseigan chakra mode. In fact, after a few days of rest, the chakra in Hyojin's body has recovered by 70% to 80%. Based on the previous battle in the valley, the consumption of the Tenseigan chakra mode is estimated to be enough for him to enter the Tenseigan chakra mode. Chapter 71. After a short rest, the 4 people of Class 11 recovered a little bit of their strength. As for what they should do next, it became an urgent problem in front of them. Spreading the map on the ground, the 4 of them sat in a circle and started discussing. Pointing to the map, Jishui was the first to speak. The land of hot water has been infiltrated by the Cloud Shinobi, and they have many spies here, so we can't continue to stay in this place. It's best to move immediately and retreat through this route. The route Jishui pointed out was along the easternmost coastline of the land of hot water, all the way back to the land of fire. According to the map, this route is within the sphere of influence of the 3 great shinobi villages of Mai, Cloud, and Mist, and it doesn't seem safe at all. But in reality, it was precisely because of this that this route, which was mixed with good and bad people, was the safest. Because no matter which village it was, they didn't have absolute authority in this area. Over time, this area has become a no-man's land, and many retired ninjas or wandering ninjas who have no place to live choose to hide in this area. Guy nodded. Well, this route is good. With the current strength of Team 11, as long as their luck isn't too bad, and they directly run into the main force of the Cloud Shinobi or the Mist Shinobi, then passing through this area shouldn't be a problem. As the captain of Team 11, Kakashi stared at the map without saying a word. Seeing that Kakashi seems to have other plans, Hyojin said, "If there's anything you want to say, just say it. We are all comrades who have experienced life and death together. there's nothing that can't be discussed. Although Kakashi lied to everyone about the previous secret mission and put Team 11 in danger, this secret mission was personally issued by the Three Generations Naruto. But after all, this secret mission was personally issued by the Three Generations Naruto, so Kakashi can't question or refuse it, and in the end, he took the initiative to undertake the most dangerous part of the mission and almost died in battle, so no one blamed him. Kakashi pointed to the location of Team 11 on the map and said slowly, "It stands to reason that we have completed the mission and should quickly retreat to Mai." But think about it. Our current position is right in the middle of the Cloud Village's assault force and the Cloud Village behind them, and this is a very critical location. Hyojin continued Kakashi's words. "Well, this position means danger to us, but our existence is like a fishbone stuck in Cloud Village's throat. As long as they don't get rid of us, they won't dare to boldly attack the Land of Fire. In terms of delaying the enemy, the four of us from Team 11 are comparable to a ninja army." Team 11 has just destroyed a secret warehouse of Kumo Village, plus more than 300 Kumo shinobi stationed there as reinforcements. So no matter how conceited Kumo Village is, they don't dare to ignore the existence of Team 11. Once Cloud Village finds out that Team 11 is still active in the Land of Hot Water, their offensive in the Land of Fire will inevitably weaken, or even be forced to stop. Jishui thought for a moment and said, "Yes, although all of us are injured and our combat power has been greatly reduced, Kumo Village doesn't know about it. As long as we hide well enough and occasionally show our faces to scare them, they won't be able to put all their strength into the main battlefield." Currently, in Team 11, Kakashi's body is very weak, even his ability to move is limited, and he has basically lost his combat power. Guy has only regained his ability to move, and with multiple fractures on his body, he has no combat power. Jishui's body is a little overdrawn because of the continuous use of the Manjikyu Sharingan, coupled with the fact that he is the youngest in Team 11, his body and chakra's recovery ability are weaker than the others, so his combat power is only 30 to 40%. The only one who still has combat power is Hyojin Chakra, who has recovered 70% to 80%. Of course, this is not because Hyojin's physique is far better than the others, but because during the battle in the valley, the huge Tenseigan's chakra healed all his injuries, so his combat power is naturally the most preserved. The members of Team 11 quickly reached a consensus and decided to stay in the Land of Hot Water for the time being to attack the Land of Fire's troops from the rear. The reason why Hyojin agreed is because according to the memories of his previous life, Hyojin knows that Kumo Village has no intention of expanding this conflict indefinitely. Once the war falls into a stalemate, Kumo Village is likely to propose peace talks. And if it is Team 11 that facilitates Kumo Village and Mai to return to the negotiating table, then it will be a great honor and qualification for the four members of Team 11. Take Naruto 4 Generations as an example. Nothing can accumulate reputation faster than making meritorious deeds in war. Land of Fire, Kumo Raiding Force Camp. Through active communication with the village in the rear, Hachibi's Jinchuriki, Nibi's Jinchuriki Yujito, and the other commanders finally learned the reason why 4 Generations Lei Ing issued the pause attack. Staring at the news from the village in his hand, Chalabi's cynical face also became gloomy. The news from Lei Ing mentioned that 4 secret warehouses located at the border were attacked by Mai Umbu at almost the same time. One of the warehouses was completely destroyed, and more than 300 Kumo ninjas stationed around the warehouse were killed. Yujito Ni on the side crossed her arms and said coldly, "Humph, my shinobi only knows how to play dirty tricks." Deputy Commander Ida said worriedly, "It's not surprising that Mai was able to find out the location of the secret warehouse. It's true that it's difficult to conceal the movement of goods, but for them to be able to annihilate more than 300 of our shinobi stationed here, it's not easy." Although Yujito Ni is arrogant, she also knows that it is not an easy task to annihilate 300 ninjas, so she curled her lips and said, "Which of Mai's experts have not shown up?" In the command center, A Kumo Jonin who acted as a secretary stepped forward and answered. According to the comprehensive information, among the famous experts of the Mai clan, only the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, and the 3 generations Naruto have yet to appear. Ida analyzed, the Hyuga clan rarely goes to the battlefield in person. Even the previous Third Shinobi War, they only went to the front line a few times at the most critical moments. So the patriarch of the Hyuga clan can be ruled out. The Uchiha clan is indeed a bit strange this time. There's almost no trace of them on the entire battlefield. So this time the incident in the rear is likely to be the work of the Uchiha clan, and the leader may even be the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. Chapter 72. How many experts does Konoha have? Kumo has long been clear about it. In Yujito Ni's opinion, there are no more than 5 people in the entire Konoha who can lead a team to complete this kind of raid behind the enemy lines, except for the defected Orochimaru and the dead Yondaime Hokage couple. So Uchiha Patriarch and Sandaime Hokage, who haven't shown up yet, are the targets of her suspicion. At this time, a cloud ninja hurried into the headquarters and said, "The village just sent the latest news." Taking a look at the news, Chillabai, Yujito Ni, and Ida were quite surprised. It turned out that the other 3 secret warehouses that were attacked not only did not suffer any losses, but the Cloud Village also wiped out the Mayumbu and even captured one of the Mayumbu. After being interrogated by Jinjutsu, the captured Mayumbu spat out everything he knew. Therefore, the Mayumbu team, 11, appeared for the first time in the eyes of the Cloud Village. Mai's 4-man Umbu squad killed more than 300 of our people. After a pause, Yujito Ni continued. Could it be that Lei Sama made a mistake? Chillabai and Ida were also surprised at this time. Only Chillabai and Yujito Ni, the 2 perfect Jinchuriki, can do this. Even Ida, as the deputy commander, doesn't have this ability. It's not that Ida is not strong, but his chakra is not strong enough. In other words, it is impossible for any normal ninja to have such an abundance of chakra to kill nearly 100 times their number of enemies in one night. We must get rid of Mai's Umbu team, 11. For a time, this thought emerged in the hearts of the 3 people. After the 3 people looked at each other, Yujito Ni stood up and said, "I'll go kill them." In the country of hot water, enemy attack. Everyone be careful. He's behind. Quickly send a signal for help. Amidst the noise, Kuroto, Maru's Hyojin, killed his way into the Cloud Village's convoys. The leader of the Kumo Jonin immediately rushed forward with his kunai in hand. Seeing this, Hyojin's lips curled up slightly. He couldn't remember how many times he had tried to block his grasp with ordinary kunai. Maru's Cloud Ninja. Clang, with a crisp sound, the Kumo Chunin leading the team, along with the kunai in his hand, were both killed by the Fua. Maru was cleanly sliced in half. Without the leader of the Chunin, the remaining Kumo Genin could hardly resist and were killed by Hyojin one by one. Only the last Genin, knowing that he was going to die, resolutely detonated the detonation talisman hidden in the transport vehicle, blowing up all the supplies and himself into the sky. Hyojin, who has escorted supplies several times during the Third Shinobi World War, is very familiar with this method, so he was able to avoid the explosion early on. His goal is not these supplies, so there is no need to take risks. After walking around the battlefield and checking that there were no survivors, Kuroto picked up the kunai that was broken in 2 and put it into the storage bag on his waist. If this broken kunai is left on the battlefield, then Cloud Village will judge that Hyojin has a sword on him based on the smooth cut of the kunai. Once Cloud Village learns this information, it will be much more difficult for Hyojin to attack them in the future. After confirming that there were no traces left, Hyojin did not stay any longer and immediately left the scene. Not long after, Cloud Village's Jinchuriki Yujito Ni arrived with a large number of Cloud Ninjas. Seeing the mess on the battlefield, and the supplies that were transported to the front line were blown to ashes, the faces of the Cloud Ninjas were extremely ugly. Yujito Ni even couldn't hold back her anger, and her pupils turned into the pupils of a Jinchuriki. At this time, a Cloud Jonin came over and shook his head towards Yujito Ni. There are no survivors. Yujito Ni suppressed her anger. There are no clues? The Cloud Jonin nodded. As before, our people were all killed with a single sword strike, and the other party is still that taijutsu expert who uses a short blade. His style is somewhat similar to White Fang Mai. Yujito Ni gritted her teeth and roared fiercely. Chase, he must not have gone far. Whoosh! With Yujito Ni's order, the Cloud Ninjas on the battlefield immediately used the body flicker technique and turned into a series of afterimages, chasing in all directions. Sensing the pursuers behind him, Hyojin smiled slightly and immediately formed a hand seal to release a shadow clone. The main body and the shadow clone quickly separated, one on the left and one on the right, and separated in different directions. After using the shadow clone to get rid of the pursuers, Hyojin came to a crack on a high cliff. This place is not only hidden, but also has a wide field of vision. For a ninja like Hyojin who has a strong insight, this is the best place to hide. Taking out a military ration pill and chewing in his mouth, Hyojin was thinking about the next step. While quenching the poison in his mouth, Hyojin was thinking about the next step. In the past week, Kuroda has attacked 3 Kumo transport teams in a row. Although he didn't destroy a lot of materials and didn't cause much casualties to Kumo, he still brought a lot of trouble to Kumo, causing several transport routes of Kumo to be in a state of panic. With the rear unstable, Cloud's offensive in the Land of Fire has to be slowed down. The abnormal behavior of Cloud Village immediately attracted the attention of Mai. Not only that, but several other shinobi villages who are paying close attention to this conflict also noticed the abnormal behavior of Cloud Village. Everyone unanimously turned their eyes to the Land of Hot Water located between the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning, as if this is the key to the conflict between Mai and Cloud Village. At the same time, with the active activities of Hyojin and the others, Mayumbu team, 11 quickly became the #1 target of Cloud Village. More and more experts of Cloud Village joined the encirclement and suppression of Mayumbu team, 11. On Hyojin's side, at first, there was only a team of Jonin. But now, not only did Cloud Village send out the Jinchuriki of Nibi, but they also sent out more than 20 Jonin in a row. This lineup is comparable to encirclement and suppression of Kage-level experts. Suddenly, because of Kuroda, Hyojin was distracted by the poisonous pill. Just a moment ago, he sensed his shadow clone vanish. This wasn't a big deal. After all, the shadow clone was a bait to draw away the pursuers. But what surprised him was that the shadow clone had disappeared very abruptly and hadn't sent back any memories. In other words, the shadow clone was instantly killed. Although Hyojin's shadow clone technique is not proficient enough, and the technique needs to be improved, but it has at least inherited 50% of his combat power and pupil power. Such a shadow clone was instantly killed, which shows that the opponent is not only strong, but also very fast. So fast that even with 50% of Hyojin's pupil power, the shadow clone couldn't react in time. Chapter 73. In the entire shinobi world, there may be many people who can defeat Hyojin, but there are not many people who can be so fast that Hyojin's shadow clone can't even react. When it came to Hidden Cloud Village, there were only a handful of them. Could it be the 4 generations laying? While making wild guesses, Kuroda took advantage of the situation. He sheathed the sword. Judging from Cloud Village's reaction, Team 11's plan was undoubtedly a success. If, as Hyojin expected, even Cloud Village's 4 generations laying was lured out, then it further proves that Class 11 played a role in delaying Cloud Village's offensive. Considering that 4 generations laying may have joined the encirclement against him, Hyojin decided to temporarily stop harassing Cloud Village's transportation line. 4 generations laying is not an ordinary ninja. His speed is almost the fastest in the world of ninjas. Even the 4 generations Naruto, who is known as the Golden Flash, would probably be inferior to the 4 generations laying in terms of regular speed if he did not use the Flying Thunder God. Facing such a powerhouse, the slightest bit of carelessness would result in death. Team 11's plan was to attack the transport line behind Cloud Village's assault force, so Hyojin didn't want to risk his life fighting with the suspected 4 generations laying at this time. As long as he was alive and well, he would have one. Before long, Hyojin returned to the small cave where Class 11 was hiding. Jishui, who had also just returned, asked, "Senior, how's the progress on your side?" Hyojin smiled. "I took care of 3 small transport teams. What about you?" Jishui replied, "As expected of Senior. I've been busy for several days, but I've only intercepted one." Jishui doesn't have Hyojin's long-range reconnaissance ability, so the efficiency of searching for the Cloud Village's transport team is far lower than Hyojin's. In addition, he has recently consumed too much of his pupil power, so he is very cautious when choosing the target to intercept. Guy, who was resting in the cave, whispered, "I'll go with you next time." Because their injuries haven't healed yet, Guy and Kakashi didn't go out to disturb Cloud Village's transportation line. As before, they stayed in the cave to recuperate. It's just that Guy has a restless temperament. When he heard Hyojin and Jishui talking about the results of the attack on Cloud Village, he couldn't help but feel itchy. "You'd better stay here." Hyojin shook his head and immediately mentioned that his shadow clone was killed in an instant. "I suspect that 4 generations laying may also be in the land of hot water." Jishui was surprised. "Senior, did you do anything to laying?" Shursui is really worried that Kuroto might have done something to Reikage, because in his opinion, Kuroto has the strength to fight against Reikage. So he is sure that Kuroto has the strength to compete with Reikage. And if something happens to Lei Ying, then the conflict between Mai and Cloud Village may escalate into a full-scale war. Guy and Kakashi are dumbfounded. After a while, Kakashi asked weakly, if Kuroto meets Lei Ying, shouldn't we be worried about Kuroto?" Guy quickly nodded and said, "Yes, Lei Ying is not someone we can deal with." Hyojin also had a helpless look on his face. He glanced at Jishui and secretly cursed in his heart. "Jishui, do you have some misunderstanding about my strength? Unlike the arrogant and reckless 4 generations Lei Ying in the future, the current 4 generations Lei Ying was suppressed by the 4 generations Naruto in the Third Shinobi War. So compared to the future, he is much more cautious. And such a high-speed ninja, once cautious, is almost invulnerable. If he has the support of the Tenseigan on the moon, Hyojin wouldn't be afraid of the 4 generations Lei Ying. But if he doesn't have the support of the Tenseigan and only relies on his own chakra, then he can only turn around and run if he encounters the 4 generations Lei Ying. What's more, 4 generations Lei Ying is bound to be surrounded by a large number of Cloud Village elites. If he dares to look for trouble with the 4 generations Lei Ying at this time, then it is a typical case of having a mental problem. After weighing the current situation, Hyojin said to the members of Team 11, "Now that we have completed the mission, the risk of staying in the land of hot water is too great, so I propose to return to Mai immediately." Jishui nodded. "I agree." Kakashi thought for a moment and nodded. In the distance, standing on a high cliff, Yujito Ni's face was ashen. At this time, a Cloud Jonin came out from the crack of the cliff and said, "This should be the hiding place of the Mai ninja who attacked our transport team." Yujito Ni quickly asked, "Is there any clue inside?" The Cloud Jonin said, "Although there is no clue, but he left his scent, that's enough." After saying that, the Cloud Jonin walked to the edge of the cliff and whistled towards the distance. After a while, a skylark covered with silver feathers followed the whistle and flew to the high cliff. After circling a few times in the air, it steadily landed on the shoulder of the Cloud Jonin. After commanding the skylark to smell the scent in the crack, the Cloud Jonin threw the skylark high in the air, and the skylark also took off into the air, circled a few times, and then flew in a certain direction. The Cloud Jonin said to Yujito Ni, "Found it. It's in that direction." Yujito Ni only spat out one word, "Chase." In an instant, more than a dozen Cloud ninjas on the cliff turned into a series of afterimages and followed the skylark. After a while, the Kumo ninjas stopped outside a cave. One of the Cloud Jonin, who was good at perception, pointed to the ground, closed his eyes, and sensed for a while, then said to his companions around him, "Just in the cave in front, three people, a total of 3 people, all of them have chakras amount. It should be Mai's Umbu team, 11. Yujito Ni stared at the entrance of the cave and asked, "Are there any traps around?" After a while, the Jonin shook his head. "Doesn't seem to be any traps outside the cave, but there are a lot of weak chakras energy inside the cave. I can't determine what it is. It may be some kind of technique, or it may be a detonation talisman." An elderly Kumo Jonin frowned. "Could this be a trap?" Yujito Ni said bitterly, "Playing with us for so long. Even if it is a trap, I will break it." Thinking that the surprise attack prepared by the village for so long was turned upside down by a mere my Umbu squad, Yujito Ni couldn't help but feel angry. Soon, under the leadership of Yujito Ni, a group of Cloud ninjas broke into the cave. Seeing the 3 members of Team 11 packing up in the cave, Yujito Ni grinned. "Humph, I finally caught you little mice." Chapter 74. The 3 members of Class 11 in the cave did not panic too much, and instead took out their weapons to be on guard. At this moment, Yujito Ni's gaze landed on Hyojin's face, and she immediately frowned slightly, seemingly thinking of something. "So it's you? Are you from the Hyuga clan?" Obviously, Yujito Ni remembered that she had encountered Hyojin during the last mission to recover the Forbidden Technique scrolls. That was the first time she failed a mission, so she had a deep impression of Hyojin. Besides, because Hyojin did not wear the black goggles this time, she recognized that he was from the Hyuga clan. One is a Byakugan, and the other is a Sharingan. No wonder it's so difficult to deal with them. It turns out that 2 of them are pupillary Kekai ninjas. After sizing up Hyojin and Jishui, Yujito Ni humped softly. "Great, let's settle the old and new scores together." Hyojin ignored Yujito Ni and said to Jishui calmly, "It's a pity that it's a Jinchuriki." Jishui asked, "Senpai, should we activate it?" Hyojin nodded. Hearing the conversation between Hyojin and Jishui, Yujito Ni suddenly felt that something was amiss and immediately yelled, "Get out!" Boom, boom, boom. Before Yujito Ni finished speaking, a series of explosions sounded in the cave, and the sound was so loud that it spread far and wide. As the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, second last huge figure appeared in the ruins of the cave, while the dozen or so Kumo ninjas who rushed into the cave with Yujito Ni all hid under second last body, barely escaping the explosion and the collapse of the cave. Whoosh! At this moment, several figures landed outside the ruins of the cave, led by none other than the 4 generations of Kumo, Lei Ying. Lei Ying of 4 generations glanced at the disheveled Yujito Ni and the others and asked in a muffled voice, "Where are the enemies?" Yujito Ni, who had already withdrawn from her tailed beast form, coughed violently and said, "Ahem, this is a trap. I'm afraid they have already escaped." Lei Ying of 4 generations looked into the distance and said emotionally, "It seems that Mai is not as weak as we expected. Maybe it's time to end this conflict." Yujito Ni hurriedly said, "Lei Ying, Sama, please give me some more time. I will definitely kill them." Reikage shook his head. The news just came back from the front line. Sandaime Hokage led his troops to attack Chalabi yesterday. Chalabi couldn't resist and began to retreat. Not only that, but the Rock Village's movements are also not clear. Rock Village's eyes aren't only focused on Konoha. If Cloud Village reveals a flaw, they won't hesitate to come forward and bite them. Yujito Ni murmured, "Don't be discouraged, there will be another chance." Lei Ying patted Yujito Ni's shoulder and said, "Don't be discouraged, there will be another chance." Yujito Ni's face was gloomy. She gritted her teeth and said, "Damn it, Mai's Class 11, the eastern coastline of the country of hot water." Along the coastline, the 4 members of Team 11 were heading towards Konoha at full speed. Suddenly, Hyojin stopped, and the other 3 people of Class 11 also stopped. Among them, Jishuei and Kakashi looked at each other with a regretful look on their faces. Jishuei sighed and said, "I didn't expect it to be like this, what a pity." Kakashi, who was a little listless, said doubtfully, "Kyomo's reaction is too extreme, just to deal with us. They even sent out their human Jinchuriki? And isn't Ni's human Jinchuriki in their assault force? Why did it suddenly appear in the country of hot water? Isn't this too strange?" Kakashi didn't know that Hyojin in the Tenseigan chakra mode wiped out the entire valley and killed hundreds of Kyomo ninjas, so he was a little puzzled by Kyomo's reaction. Jishuei glanced at Hyojin carefully and said in his heart, "In the face of a strong person like Kuroto-senpai, Kyomo has no chance of winning if they don't send out their human Jinchuriki." Hyojin's face was calm, and he didn't say anything. When he thought that so many detonation talismans were wasted, his mood naturally became 100 times worse. After deciding to evacuate the country of hot water, Team 11 immediately arranged a large trap, ready to deal a final blow to Kyomo. The Team 11 in the trap was just a shadow clone of Hyojin, Jishuei, and Kakashi. As for Guy, because he hasn't mastered the shadow clone technique yet, there was no shadow clone in the cave trap. Originally, he wanted to attract a team of Jonin, or at least a Jonin team led by a Jonin to investigate. Unexpectedly, it directly attracted Nibi's Jinchuriki, Yujito Ni. Once a Jinchuriki is transformed into a tailed beast, under the protection of the tailed beast chakra, general explosions and cave collapses are difficult to cause fatal damage to them. What's more, Yujito Ni belongs to the perfect Jinchuriki, which means that she can cooperate with Nibi, so the power of the hastily arranged trap is not enough to deal with her. After receiving the message from the shadow clone in the distance, the 4 members of Team 11 once again rushed towards Mai. As more and more Kyomo forces are invested in the country of hot water, the country of hot water has become more and more dangerous. So at this time, even if it's a little regretful, Team 11 had to evacuate immediately. Perhaps they were worried about the conflict between Mai and Kyomo, so the wandering ninjas in the country of hot water have already fled. So Team 11 galloped along the coastline of the country of hot water for a few days. Except for a few fishermen, they didn't encounter a single ninja. A week later, the 4 members of Team 11 finally returned to the territory of the country of fire. In the country of fire, Team 11 soon encountered the scouting and patrolling my ninja squad, and through these my ninjas, they learned about the latest situation. Just as Hyojin remembered in his previous life, Kyomo's raid on Mai was just a test. And the cause of this test was the accidental death of 4 generations Naruto and 9 Tails Jinchuriki. It can be said that this conflict between Mai and Kyomo is completely the follow-up effect of Mai's 9 Tails rebellion, Orochimaru's defection, and the death of 4 generations Naruto and his wife. Whether it is Kyomo itself or Mai who was attacked, neither side has the intention to start a full-scale war. So after the attack was unsuccessful, Kyomo released the intention of peace talks to Mai. Regarding Kyomo's request for peace talks, 3 generations Naruto readily accepted. 3 generations Naruto doesn't know how much trouble Team 11 caused behind Kyomo, and even if he knew, he would still choose to negotiate with Kyomo, because Mai can't afford another shinobi war. Chapter 75. In a damp cave in the country of rain. Drip, water droplets hit the rock and made a crisp sound. At this time, 2 huge Nepenthes leaves slowly rose from the ground, and a strange face with half white and half black appeared in the middle of the leaves. The masked man sitting in the cave glanced at it slightly and asked casually, "Ju, how is the situation?" The strange man named Ju, who still has half of his body hidden in the ground, replied, "They have already begun to negotiate. It's completely different from what you expected." The masked man was silent for a while and said, "Why did Cloud Village slow down their offensive?" At the beginning of the raid, Cloud Village almost broke through the frontal defense of Mai. Everyone who was paying attention to this conflict, including the masked man, thought that Cloud Village would quickly approach my village. But no one expected that Cloud Village, who was in an advantageous position, would suddenly slow down their offensive, making the originally clear situation suddenly become confusing. Zhu shook his head. I don't know. Monitoring all the battlefields in the Country of Fire has made Zhu a little tired, so he can't take care of the battle outside the Country of Fire at all. The masked man was a little annoyed. Cloud Village is wasting an opportunity. Zhu recalled and replied, maybe there is something wrong with the rear of Cloud Village. A few weeks before they withdrew from the Country of Fire, their deployment was a bit strange. Nibi's Jinchuriki even left the frontline troops and hurried back to the rear. The masked man waved his hand. Forget it. The masked man didn't want to get to the bottom of it. In his opinion, whether it is Mai or Cloud Village, they're just pawns that can be used. Since they are just pawns that can be casually manipulated, there's no need to place too much hope on them. Zhu asked in a daze, what should we do next? The masked man smiled. From this conflict with Hyumo, it can be seen that the Konoha village has completely lost trust in the Uchiha clan. We should start with the Uchiha clan to further weaken the Konoha clan. What do you need me to do? Find me a clansman of Uchiha. After a pause, the masked man's tone became more and more gloomy. I need a good chess piece to provoke the relationship between Uchiha and the village. My village, Uchiha clan grounds. Dong, dong, dong. A series of hurried knocks came from outside the courtyard. Jishui, who had just returned home, had no choice but to drag his exhausted body to open the courtyard door. As soon as he opened the door, Itachi's thin figure reflected in his eyes. Itachi said happily, Brother Jishui, you are finally back. The Uchiha clan knew about Jishui's secret mission. Moreover, many Uchiha clansmen believed that the 3 generations were abusing their power to avenge their personal grudges. They deliberately used the mission to eliminate the number 1 genius of the Uchiha clan, so Itachi was very worried about Jishui's safety. Jishui smiled as he led Itachi into the house. After sitting down, Jishui briefly mentioned the mission of Class 11 and then said with a smile, Don't worry, we have Kuroto-senpai in Class 11, so there won't be too much danger. Hearing that Class 11 caused a lot of trouble in the Country of Thunder, Itachi asked curiously, Brother Jishui, is it because of you that the Cloud Village slowed down their offensive? Mai also felt strange about the abnormality of the Cloud Village. All kinds of speculations and probing have never stopped until they confirmed that the Cloud Village really had a problem in the rear. 3 generations Naruto personally led the troops to attack the Cloud Village and drove them out of the Country of Fire in one fell swoop. Jishui nodded with a smile. Recalling the look of surprise on the face of 3 generations after listening to the report of Class 11, Kuroto's mood became very carefree. There is no doubt that after returning to the village, Class 11, after synthesizing all the information, quickly came to a conclusion. It was because of their harassment in the rear of the Cloud Village that the Cloud Village was forced to slow down their offensive, winning valuable breathing space for Mai. After chatting for a while, Itachi suddenly said, Brother Jishui, look. With that, Itachi's eyes suddenly turned red, and 2 Magatama slowly appeared in his pupils. Jishui was overjoyed. You opened your eyes? Itachi nodded. I opened my eyes on the battlefield last week. Why are you on the battlefield? Itachi said, I have graduated early. At this moment, a figure fell in the courtyard of Jishui's house and said, Jishui, the patriarch is holding a clan meeting in the mansion. He is waiting for you. The smile on Jishui's face suddenly solidified, and his face became gloomy. Arriving at the mansion, Jishui looked at the people in the house. Inside the house, Patriarch Uchiha Fuyue sat in the center with his hands crossed over his chest, surrounded by the elites of the Uchiha police force. More than a dozen of them are jonin. Seeing this scene, Jishui's heart tightened. Even the ordinary Tokubetsu jonin in the clan are not qualified to participate in this clan meeting. He can already vaguely guess what the issue will be discussed in this clan meeting. Patriarch, after saying hello, Jishui silently sat in the corner. Fuyue glanced at Ji Shuei and nodded. As soon as Ji Shuei arrived, the Uchiha clan meeting officially began. Soon, an elite Uchiha Jonin from the police force said, "Captain, I have received accurate news that the village has lost more than 30 Jonin this time. Hyuga, Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka, Abizuka, and other shinobi clans have lost many Jonin and Jinin." As he said, the elite Uchiha Jonin stood up, and his expression became more and more excited. After suffering such a big loss, 3 generations actually agreed to the peace talks. Many people in the village are dissatisfied. This is an opportunity for us. Another elite Uchiha Jonin said in an orderly manner, "It is said that the Umbu directly under Naruto also lost a lot this time, and the strength of 3 generations has been weakened again." As soon as the voice of this elite Uchiha Jonin fell, the Uchiha Jonin in the room looked at Ji Shuei, who was sitting in the corner. At present, only Ji Shuei has joined the Umbu in the entire Uchiha clan, so the real information about the Umbu can only be obtained through Ji Shuei. Seeing everyone looking at him, Ji Shuei was both annoyed and helpless, so he had to casually say, "I don't know much. Probably 3 Umbu squads were lost." The Uchiha Jonin in the room were very excited when they heard this, and one of them stood up and said to Patriarch Fuyue, "Captain, it's time. The position of Naruto should be our Uchiha clan." "Yes, Captain, let's do it." The atmosphere gradually heated up, and the Uchiha Jonin of the police force stood up one after another. Clan leader Fugaku crossed his arms in front of his chest and sat steadily. Chapter 76. Looking at the fanatical and distorted faces of the clansmen in front of him, Ji Shuei felt frightened for the first time. If this crazy emotion was allowed to spread in the house, only destruction would await the Uchiha clan. After making up his mind, Ji Shuei stood up and said, "Patriarch, force is not the solution to the problem, and with the strength of our clan, we are not a match for the village at all." "Ji Shuei, what nonsense are you talking about? Are you afraid? Uchiha is the strongest. As long as we take down the 3 generations, the people in the village will agree with us." The house suddenly became noisy. Ahem. Patriarch Fuyue coughed twice to stop the chaos of the Uchiha. Ji Shuei did not give in at all. Blind action will only lead the Uchiha clan into the abyss. Fuyue looked deeply at Ji Shuei and immediately waved his hand. "That's all for today. Go back." On the way home alone, Ji Shuei covered his eyes with one hand and said in his heart, "Maybe my man GQ Sharingan was awakened to save the clan, but can Kodo Amami really change the fate of the Uchiha?" Hyojin's house. Looking at the scroll of the 4-symbol seal, Hyojin was thoughtful. The difficulty of learning the 4-symbol seal was much higher than he expected. It even involved the transformation of the chakra attribute. It was a sealing technique that truly understood the changes of the chakra attribute. Perhaps it was because of this that many powerful forbidden techniques were developed with the 4-symbol seal as a foundation. At this time, Belle walked into the room with a fragrant dish. Smelling the fragrance, Hyojin's finger was moved, and he smiled. "It smells so good." Belle sat on the side and whispered, "I haven't heard from you before. I thought something happened to you." Hyojin smiled gently. "Didn't I tell you long ago? Don't worry. In fact, this mission wasn't that dangerous. It just took some time to hide." Ling pursed her lips and said, "You're always like this. In order to deceive me, you make something that's obviously very dangerous sound so easy." Hyojin quickly changed the topic. "By the way, did the clan suffer great losses this time?" Ling sighed and said dejectedly, "Including Zhao's father, the clan lost more than 10 people this time. Hyuga Takashi is Yui's neighbor and has a good relationship with Yui. His father is one of the few elite Jonin in the Hyuga family. In this conflict, he died in the hands of the Cloud Shinobi Aida. With the death of Hyuga's father, the number of elite Jonin in the Hyuga clan, including the retired elders, can be counted on one hand." Hyojin's face darkened at the thought of the many more orphans in his family. "You then said, Patriarch said that if you have time, please come to the clan land. Hyojin nodded. Now that he can freely open and close his Tenseigan, there is no need to hide from the clan. After eating the food cooked by you, Hyojin walked towards the clan land. After talking about the issue of Uchiha, Hayashi then took out a few bounty lists and handed them to Hyojin, and said, "In the near future, you'd better be careful." Hyojin took the bounty list and looked at it, only to see his own portrait on it, and the bounty number below was a long string of zeros. He counted for a long time and said, 20 million, Liang? Hayashi said leisurely, "There's a second one." Hyojin quickly turned to the second bounty list, and this bounty list also has his portrait, and the bounty number below is also a long string of zeros. The amount is even more than the first one. 25 million Liang? This is what is going on. Chapter 77. After some detailed questioning, Kuroto learned that all 4 members of Team 11 have a bounty of 20 million Ryo on their heads, and the bounty for each of them is 20 million Ryo. This bounty should be the work of Kumo village, right? After thinking about it, Kuroto can only think of the Kumo and Rock clans who have a grudge against Umbu Team 11, and compared to Rock clans, Kumo is obviously more suspicious. But how did Kumo get the specific information about our Team 11? Could it be that their spy has already infiltrated the Umbu? This sudden thought startled Hyojin himself. The Umbu, directly under Naruto, are all personally selected by the 3 generations, and the scope of the selection is also known to all the ninjas in the village. If there is a spy from another village among them, then it means that this spy has infiltrated the village for a long time, at least in terms of foundation. There is no flaw in this spy. Immediately afterward, Hyojin thought of the second bounty. This second bounty is 5 million Ryo higher than the first, reaching a shocking level of 25 million Ryo, which is almost the bounty of the famous elite jonin of the 5 great shinobi villages. The strangest thing is that this second bounty is a single bounty, and the target is only Hyojin. This undoubtedly shows that the person who issued the bounty only has a personal grudge against Hyojin, and has nothing to do with Team 11. Who could it be? Seeing Hyojin's thoughtful look, Hayashi thought that he was worried about the bounty. So he said, "You don't have to worry too much. For a ninja, the bounty in the black market is a reflection of our merits, and only a powerful ninja will have a high bounty." Hyojin nodded. He is not afraid. He is just a little concerned about who the person who issued the bounty is. Raising the cup and taking a sip of tea, Hayashi asked, "Do you know how much the bounty on me is in the black market?" "How much?" Hayashi said lightly. 100 million Ryo. Hyojin laughed awkwardly. Hee, as expected of the Lord Patriarch. Hyojin naturally understands that this 100 million Ryo is not so much a bounty for Hyuga Hayashi himself, but a bounty for the Hyuga clan, a bounty for Byakugan. As we all know, only the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan can be stolen, and the Hyuga clan is small. Therefore, as long as you kill Hyuga Hayashi, not only will you get a pair of Byakugan, but you will also be able to cause an immeasurable impact on the Hyuga clan separation system. After leaving the ancestral clan, Hyojin slowly walked towards his own home. As he passed by a narrow alley, a figure suddenly appeared from the shadows, blocking his path. Hyojin's expression turned cold as he pulled out the blade of grass from his waist. Pill activated the Byakugan and assumed a posture of being on full alert. The figure that walked out from the darkness was leaning on a stick. Remove carries? Young surging worm burden scars pelican, first walking worm burden. Omega cute and fresh solo Shohyojin immediately put away the Byakugan, nodded and said, "Yes, Danzo-sama." The one who stopped Hyojin's path was none other than Danzo Shimura, who has the title of Dark Shinobi. At the same time, he is also a member of Mai's advisory group, the commander of Root. "You are very talented. There is no future for you to stay in the Umbu. Join my Root. You will have everything you want." Danzo's tone is very cold. It doesn't seem like he's trying to win people over, but he seems to be full of confidence, as if the conditions he offered are difficult for Hyojin to refuse. Hyojin replied without hesitation, "I'm sorry. I am directly under Naruto, Sama-Zambu, and all the transfers must follow the arrangements of the 3 generations Naruto-sama." Danzo's eyes suddenly became cold. If this old man remembers correctly, this is the second time you refused to join the route. Because of Orochimaru's defection, Hyojin was temporarily detained, and he once refused the recruitment of the route. But at that time, he was just a chunin, a dispensable cannon fodder role, so Danzo didn't take it seriously. Not only did he become a Tokubetsu Jonin, but he also defeated several Uchiha shinobi in a row. Not long ago, he also completed the secret mission assigned by Sandaime-sama. He is now a young man in the limelight of Konoha, which is why Danzo chose to personally recruit him. Because of this, Hyojin refused without hesitation, making Danzo very dissatisfied. Facing Danzo's threat, Hyojin turned a deaf ear. "Sorry, I am not interested in joining the route. Young man, every decision must be carefully made, otherwise you will regret it in the future." After saying that, Danzo's figure gradually disappeared into the darkness. Looking at Danzo, who felt good about himself, as if everything was under his control, Hyojin's face was expressionless. In fact, when he turned into the narrow alley, he had already noticed Danzo hiding in the shadows, and the panicked opening of the Sharingan, pulling out the sword, and so on, were all deliberately put on by him. His purpose was just to open the Byakugan and spy on Danzo's current state. And this performance was obviously not in vain. Hyojin discovered that the current Danzo has been transplanted with Hashirama cells, as well as the Sharingan on his entire arm. No wonder he has been appearing less and less in public recently. While sighing, Hyojin had to think of a way to deal with it. Kuroto still hasn't forgotten about the Konoha village's cleansing, and after many investigations and the information provided by Orochimaru, it was Danzo who presided over the cleansing of the Konoha village. So whether Danzo provokes him or not, Kuroto will not let Danzo go. It's just that the information he obtained just now made him a little surprised. He didn't expect that at this time, Danzo has already transplanted Hashirama's cells and a large number of Sharingan. This also shows that Danzo has never given up on human experiments, and in the research of Hashirama cells, he is even ahead of Orochimaru. Moreover, Danzo must have started collecting Sharingan a long time ago. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have so many Sharingan at once before the Uchiha clan was exterminated. Uchiha clan doesn't have caged birds, so collecting Sharingan is very easy, at least for Danzo, who controls the route. This has been premeditated. Hyojin walked quietly towards his home while thinking to himself, "I'm afraid that even if Uchiha doesn't plan a coup, Danzo will still act against them." Danzo has taken a fancy to Uchiha's Sharingan. As a member of Mai's advisory group, Danzo should have the strength close to Kage. Otherwise, Danzo wouldn't be so obsessed with Naruto's position.